What would you do if the quietest customer you served turned out to change your life? The question had never crossed Emma Carter's mind, until the day the boy walked into the diner. It was just past 3 p.m., the lull between the late lunch crowd and the early dinner regulars. The sun spilled through the dusty blinds of Marge's diner, casting long shadows across the checkered floor. A low hum from the overhead fluorescent lights buzzed like a tired lullaby. Emma wiped down a ketchup-smeared table near the window, humming under her breath, her brown ponytail swaying with every movement. The only sound was the clink of cutlery being wrapped into napkins and the occasional sizzle from the kitchen. That's when the door creaked open. She barely noticed him at first. A small boy, maybe 9 or 10, stepped inside. Pale. Thin. Wore a faded gray hoodie that seemed 2 sizes too big and clutched a worn-out backpack tightly to his chest. His sneakers were scuffed and one was untied. Emma paused. Kids didn't usually come in alone, at least, not to a diner like Marge's. She waited for a parent to follow. No one did. The boy glanced around nervously and walked straight to booth 9, the one in the back corner near the jukebox, like he'd been here before. But Emma was sure she'd never seen him. She grabbed a menu and approached slowly. "Hey there, sweetheart. You waiting for someone?" she asked gently, placing the menu in front of him. He shook his head, eyes fixed on the salt shaker. "You hungry?" she tried again. This time, he nodded. Emma smiled, but her heart tugged at the sight of him. His face was clean but tired. There was a look in his eyes, one she recognized too well. Fear mixed with hunger, pride tangled with silence. She'd seen it in her own bathroom mirror once upon a time. "I'll get you something warm," she said. "On the house." He didn't protest. The boy didn't say a word during the entire meal. Emma brought him a grilled cheese sandwich, a small bowl of tomato soup, and a chocolate milkshake, because why not? He ate slowly, deliberately, like someone who wasn't used to having warm food on a cold day. From behind the counter, Pete, the manager, raised an eyebrow at her. He didn't say anything, but Emma knew what he was thinking. When the boy finished, he looked up at her with a kind of quiet gratitude that spoke louder than any "thank you" ever could. Then he stood, nodded once, and walked out without a word. No bill. No tip. No name. Just a ghost of a smile before the door jingled shut behind him. Later that night, as she wiped down the counter for the last time, Pete approached. "You know that kid didn't pay, right?" he grumbled, scratching his beard. Emma didn't look up. He looked like he needed a meal. Pete sighed, frustrated. "This is a business, not a soup kitchen. You do that again, I'm taking it out of your tips." Emma just nodded. She wasn't in the mood for a fight. Truth was, she barely had tips to spare as it was. Bills were overdue. Her son's winter jacket had a broken zipper she hadn't fixed yet. The heat in her apartment kicked in when it wanted to. But something about the boy had cut through the noise of her own struggles. She couldn't explain it, only that it felt like the right thing to do. The next afternoon, around the same time, the door creaked again. Same boy. Same hoodie. Same quiet shuffle to booth 9. Emma didn't ask questions. She brought him a peanut butter sandwich and a glass of milk this time. No charge. No fuss. The same silent routine played out, he ate, he nodded, he left. It happened again the day after that. Then the next. Each time, Emma noticed more. The way he never took off his backpack. How he always checked the window before sitting down. The way he flinched at loud noises. And the odd way he glanced at her name tag like he was trying to remember something important. Still, he never spoke. On the 4th day, he came in a little earlier than usual. Emma saw him hesitate near the door, one hand on the frame, like he wasn't sure if he should go in. She gave him a smile from behind the counter. "Booth 9's all yours," she said, motioning with her head. He walked over, slower this time. When she placed the plate in front of him, she saw it, his hands were trembling. "You okay?" she asked, crouching slightly. No answer. But his eyes were wet. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something, but then closed it again. Emma didn't push. She placed a napkin on the table, then reached into her apron and pulled out a tiny candy bar she kept for her own kid when he had rough days. "Here. On me," she said, smiling. He looked at the candy, then at her. This time, he took a breath. "Thank you," he whispered. That night, Emma didn't sleep much. The diner had been slow. The tips had been worse. And Pete had given her another lecture about being too soft. But none of it mattered. Because for the first time in days, the boy had spoken. And that whisper of gratitude echoed in her mind louder than any angry boss or unpaid bill. As she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, she thought about something her mother used to say: sometimes the smallest things you do will be the biggest things someone else remembers. She hadn't thought about her mother in years. She hadn't thought about hope in even longer. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Emma had been pouring coffee into chipped mugs and smiling through tired eyes for almost 6 years. Most nights she left Marge's diner with aching feet and a sore back, and most mornings she woke up wondering how she'd make rent by the end of the week. She didn't always live this way. There was a time, 10 years ago, when Emma's future felt infinite. Back in high school, she was the girl with the wrench. The only girl in shop class. The one who could take apart an engine faster than the boys could Google what a carburetor did. Her dream? To become an aerospace engineer. Not just work on planes, design them. Change the way people move through the skies. And she almost made it. Emma had earned a full-ride scholarship to a top engineering school in Seattle. It was her escape plan. A ticket out of the rust-stained town of Brookvale, where dreams went to die and ambition got you labeled as too much. She packed her things the summer after graduation with wide eyes and a heart too big for her suitcase. Then she missed her period. One test. One plus sign. One heartbeat on a fuzzy black and white screen, and everything changed. The father? A guy named Kyle. A one-summer mistake with a leather jacket and a loud laugh. He stuck around for a while, just long enough to say all the right things and then none at all. By the time Emma's baby bump showed up, Kyle had vanished, and so had her scholarship. The university deferred her spot. Said she could come back in a year. She never did. Now, 28 years old, Emma had traded equations for espresso machines, and blueprints for double shifts. Her son, Aiden, was 6 and the brightest thing in her life. He loved space, just like she once did. His bedroom ceiling was covered in glow-in-the-dark stars, and he wore a NASA hoodie to school so often that the sleeves were threadbare. Some nights, after she tucked him in, she'd pull out the old notebook from under her bed, the one with sketches of aircraft wings and engine layouts. She'd run her fingers over the faded pencil lines and wonder what might have been. Then she'd hear Aiden snore from the next room, and remember what was. The tip jar at the counter of Marge's diner had a label that read, "Good tips equals good karma." It was mostly a joke. People in Brookvale weren't known for generous pockets. A few coins here and there. A crumpled $1 bill on a good day. That week, though, Emma had noticed it staying almost completely empty. A local warehouse had just laid off 30 people. Gas prices had jumped again. People were stressed, and stress didn't leave room for kindness, or tips. And now she was giving out free meals to strange, silent boys. Was it foolish? Probably. Did it feel right? Absolutely. Her co-worker, Denise, a 50-something woman with a permanent scowl and a heart of gold buried deep under sarcasm, caught Emma staring into the jar during a slow shift. Staring at it won't make money appear, hon, Denise said, sliding her gum into the back of her cheek. Emma gave a small smile. Just trying to remember the last time it had more than $3 in it. Try last Christmas. They both chuckled, the kind of laugh that people who've learned to survive use when everything else feels heavy. Denise nodded toward booth 9, now empty. That kid again? Emma nodded. He still ain't talking. He said thank you yesterday. Denise raised her eyebrows. Progress. Maybe next week he'll give us a Yelp review. Emma laughed again, but it faded quickly. She leaned in, voice low. He doesn't look safe. I mean, not dangerous. Just scared. Like he's hiding from something. You call someone? Emma shook her head. Not yet. Maybe you should. Kids that age shouldn't be alone. You never know these days. Emma didn't answer. She couldn't bring herself to call child services. Something about the way that boy looked at her, with quiet trust, kept her from picking up the phone. She wasn't ready to break that. That night, Emma drove home in her beat-up Ford Taurus, the check engine light glowing like a tiny sun on her dashboard. Aiden was already asleep at her mom's house, where he usually stayed when Emma worked late. Emma's mother, Judy, wasn't the warm and fuzzy kind. She'd taken Emma's pregnancy as both a disappointment and an "I told you so." Their relationship had never fully healed, but for Aiden's sake, they kept a fragile peace. In the kitchen, Emma opened the fridge to a carton of expired milk and half a stick of butter. She sighed and poured herself a glass of water instead. Her phone buzzed, a reminder, rent due in 5 days. $835. Her tips that week? Less than $100. She sat at the table, staring at the reminder, fingers rubbing the edge of the glass. Her mind drifted back to the boy. What was he running from? Why her diner? Why her? Maybe it didn't matter. Maybe the point wasn't to know, but to care anyway. The next morning, as Emma walked Aiden to school, he looked up at her with bright eyes. Mom, do you think people live on Mars yet? Not yet, she said, squeezing his hand. But they're working on it. He nodded thoughtfully. I want to go there. I want to build stuff that flies in space. Like rockets and moon bikes. Emma smiled, even as her throat tightened. You will, she said, bending down to zip his coat. You're gonna build the best rocket ship anyone's ever seen. Later, on her break at the diner, she pulled out her sketchbook from her locker. She hadn't drawn in months. She flipped to a blank page and started sketching the shape of a new kind of wing. Maybe, just maybe, some dreams didn't die. Maybe they just waited. If Emma had a nickel for every time someone told her, things will work out, she could have bought herself a new life. Instead, she had $2 in her wallet, a fridge with half a bottle of ketchup, and a stack of unopened bills collecting dust on the microwave. The morning had started like most others, too early, too cold, and too loud. Her second-hand coffee maker sputtered to life like it needed CPR, and the toaster burned the bread again, filling the kitchen with the familiar scent of carbon and disappointment. Aiden, she called over her shoulder, fanning the smoke alarm with a dish towel. Your toast's got extra crunch today. The sound of tiny feet scuffling across linoleum echoed from the hallway. Her 6-year-old son appeared, rubbing sleep from his eyes and dragging his Spider-Man backpack behind him. I wanted waffles, he mumbled. Emma leaned down, planting a quick kiss on his forehead. I wanted to win the lottery. Guess we're both out of luck, huh? Aiden giggled and climbed into the kitchen chair. Emma tossed the ruined toast in the trash and grabbed a granola bar instead. Breakfast of champions. As he munched, she sat across from him, elbows on the table, watching him with tired affection. His hair stuck up in every direction, and his pajamas didn't match, but he had that same spark in his eyes she'd always had as a kid, the one that hadn't yet been dulled by disappointment. She hoped it never would. "Hey, buddy," she said, her tone gentle. "Do kids at school ever talk about space stuff?" Aiden nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah. Me and Tyler were building a cardboard rover yesterday at recess. I told him Mars has, like, giant dust storms. He thought it was fake, but I told him my mom knows stuff." Emma smiled. "Oh, I know stuff, huh? Yeah, you used to build rockets or something." Emma chuckled. "Not quite. I used to want to. I studied airplanes, not rockets. For a little while." "Why'd you stop?" That question hit her like a brick in the chest. Emma hesitated. She could lie, say something about changing careers or chasing new dreams, but Aiden was smart. He'd see through it. "I had you," she said simply. Aiden blinked. "Is that bad?" She leaned forward and brushed a crumb from his cheek. "Never. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me." And that was true. But there were layers to truth, and under this one lived another: she had given up everything else. At Marge's diner later that day, the usual crowd had shuffled in. A few truckers, some high school kids skipping class, and old man Harvey, who ordered the same dry BLT every Tuesday and flirted with Denise like it was 1973. Emma refilled coffee mugs and balanced plates like clockwork. Her motions were muscle memory by now, but her mind drifted, to college days that never happened, to classrooms she never sat in, to the smell of jet fuel she never experienced firsthand. She'd kept every letter from the university in a box under her bed. Acceptance. Deferral. Withdrawal. A trilogy of hope, delay, and quiet surrender. Once, she'd believed she'd make it out of Brookvale. But now? Now she felt like a cautionary tale told in whispers at PTA meetings. During a short lull between tables, Emma stepped outside to catch some air. She lit a cigarette, a habit she usually tried to break every Monday, and stared out at the quiet road. Snow was melting in patches, revealing the cracked pavement beneath, like scars on skin. She thought about the boy. The way he sat still like he didn't want to be noticed. The way his eyes darted like he was waiting for someone to walk through that door and drag him out. Was he lost? Running? Abandoned? She didn't know. But she did know what it felt like to be forgotten. Denise joined her outside a minute later, cracking her knuckles and grunting as she leaned against the wall. "Kids got it tough these days," she muttered, lighting up her own smoke. Emma gave a soft snort. "Pretty sure we said that last decade, too." "Yeah, but now they got no money and the internet telling them they're not good enough." They stood in silence for a moment, watching a bird peck at crumbs in the parking lot. Denise eventually asked, "You ever think about leaving this place?" Emma flicked ash onto the ground. "Every damn day." "Then why don't you?" Emma thought about it. About the cost. About the way Aiden's face lit up when he saw her waiting at the school gate. About the weight of dreams that now belonged to someone smaller than her. "Because I got a good reason to stay." Denise nodded, blowing smoke into the sky. "That's the only reason that matters." Back inside, Emma noticed something odd. On Booth 9's table, tucked beside the napkin holder, was a folded piece of paper. She hadn't seen the boy come in, or leave. She picked it up slowly and unfolded it. It wasn't long. "Thank you for the food. I told him about you." That was it. No name. No return address. Just messy handwriting and a cryptic sentence that sent a chill crawling up her spine. "I told him about you." Emma sat down at the booth, staring at the note. "Told who?" she whispered aloud. And more importantly, why? That night, back at home, Emma didn't touch her dinner. She laid in bed next to Aiden, watching him sleep, her mind spinning. She thought about her empty tip jar. Her abandoned future. The boy with the hollow eyes. And now, this note. Something was happening. She just didn't know what. Yet. There was a rhythm to Marge's diner that rarely skipped a beat. Emma had it memorized, the way a musician knows every rise and fall in a melody. The door chimed the same way every morning. The coffee brewed at the same slow drip. The same customers sat in the same booths, telling the same stories they'd been telling for years. It was comfort. It was predictability. It was also, slowly, driving her insane. 6:45 a.m. opening shift. Denise unlocked the front door, still nursing a thermos of black coffee like it was oxygen. Emma, in her second-hand jeans and a faded maroon diner uniform, was already inside wiping down the counter. The jukebox in the corner played the same classic rock shuffle it always did, stuck in a purgatory of Fleetwood Mac and Lynyrd Skynyrd. "You get any sleep last night?" Denise asked, sliding behind the register. Emma shrugged. "Enough to fake it." Denise squinted at her. "That code for, I stayed up staring at a weird note from a mystery kid?" Emma raised an eyebrow. Denise smirked. "You muttered it in your sleep yesterday during break. Told him about you. Creepy stuff. Like a B-grade thriller." Emma chuckled dryly. "I didn't think I said that out loud." "You did. And I've seen enough Dateline episodes to know, this is how it starts." Emma shook her head, but the truth was, she hadn't stopped thinking about the note. Or the boy. Or who he could have meant. 7:15 a.m., first wave. Harvey, the 70-something widower who claimed to have once met Elvis, limped through the door with a cane that doubled as a conversation starter. He wore a veteran's hat and a thick plaid jacket, no matter the weather. "Morning, ladies," he said with a grin, tipping an imaginary hat. "Morning, Harvey," they replied in unison. "You know," he said, settling into booth 3, "I used to have a waist like that jukebox." Denise rolled her eyes. "And now you've got one like the fridge." He cackled, coughing halfway through, and patted the table. "BLT, dry, no mayo. You know the drill." Emma poured his coffee before he even asked. 8 a.m., school kids and coffee addicts. By now the place was humming. Teens with overstuffed backpacks grabbed muffins to go. Office workers clutched their travel mugs like lifelines. The high school's vice principal, Mrs. Gale, ordered her usual, black coffee and judgmental glances. Emma worked the floor like a dance. She floated from table to table, refilling mugs, offering half-smiles, mentally calculating which regular was due to stiff her on a tip again. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't what she'd dreamed. But it was hers. 10:15 a.m., the lull. Emma leaned against the counter, sipping water from a cracked plastic cup. That's when booth 9 caught her eye. Empty again. Just like yesterday. And the day before that. No boy. No note. But she still checked. Every time. Denise walked over, following her gaze. "You're not gonna let this go, huh?" Emma shook her head. "It's like, something's coming. And that kid was just the beginning of it." Denise snorted. "I swear, if this ends with you saying, he was an angel sent from space, I'm quitting." Emma cracked a smile, but it faded quickly. "Denise, what if someone really important read that note?" "You mean like, his dad?" Emma shook her head. "No. I mean like, someone powerful. Someone who could make things happen." Denise's eyes narrowed. "You're not saying what I think you're saying." Emma hesitated. "It's crazy, I know. Go ahead. Say it anyway." She leaned in, voice barely above a whisper. "What if, he meant Elon Musk?" Denise burst out laughing. "Oh sure. And maybe I'm Dolly Parton." "I'm serious." Denise waved a hand. "Emma, come on. You think some random kid wandered into your diner, wrote a note, and then told Elon freaking Musk about you? That's the weirdest LinkedIn story I've ever heard. Emma shrugged. I don't know. It's just a feeling. Denise pointed to the tip jar. Tell that feeling to pay your rent. 11:30 a.m., the unexpected. Right before the lunch crowd hit, the door chimed again. But it wasn't the boy. It was a woman. Maybe late 30s, sharply dressed, dark blazer, hair pulled into a no-nonsense bun. She didn't fit the mold of Brookvale. More like someone lost on her way to a conference. Emma walked over. Hey there. Grab any seat you'd like. The woman didn't sit. She looked around, eyes scanning the room like she was analyzing blueprints. Is there an Emma Carter here? She asked. Emma froze. Yeah. That's me. The woman reached into her bag and handed over a plain white envelope. I was asked to deliver this. That's all I know. Then she turned and left. Just like that. Emma stared at the envelope in her hand. No return address. No name. Just her own name in neat handwriting across the front. Denise hovered behind her. Okay, now I'm intrigued. Emma opened it. Inside was a card. Matte black. Embossed in silver letters. It read. You helped him. He noticed. E. No signature. No explanation. Just a whisper of a promise. Emma's heart slammed against her ribs. It couldn't be. Could it? Denise let out a low whistle. I take it back. This is a thriller. Emma sat down in booth 9, clutching the card, her hands trembling. Whatever routine she thought her life had, it was already unraveling. And someone real, was watching. You ever do something kind for someone, and then start wondering if it might ruin everything? That was the question spinning in Emma's mind the morning after the envelope arrived. She stared at it now, still unopened beyond the card, sitting beside her coffee mug like it had weight. Like it was ticking. The note had said so little, yet it filled the space around her like smoke. You helped him. He noticed. E. Who was he? Who was E? Her brain kept circling back to the boy, the kid in the gray hoodie who never said his name. The one who ate like he hadn't seen food in days. The one who had left her that strange message, I told him about you. Something about it all gnawed at her. She was barely through the front door of Marge's diner when Pete, the manager, pounced. Emma, he barked, waving a printed receipt in the air like it was evidence in a courtroom. Did you comp 3 meals this week? Emma sighed. 1 grilled cheese. 1 peanut butter sandwich. 1 soup and milkshake. Same kid. Quiet. He's not in a good place. Pete's eyes narrowed. That's not your call to make. He didn't have anyone. This is a business. Not your personal charity project. Emma folded her arms. You ever miss a meal growing up, Pete? He blinked. Then you don't get it. Pete's jaw worked like he wanted to say more, but he didn't. He dropped the receipt on the counter and stalked off, muttering about bleeding hearts and empty registers. Denise slid in next to her a moment later, sipping a Red Bull like it was holy water. He on your case again? Emma nodded. 3rd time this week. Maybe start a punch card, Denise quipped. Buy 5 meals for sad kids, get 1 stern lecture free. Emma gave a tired laugh, but the weight never left her shoulders. Things were getting tight. Too tight. She checked her bank account during her break. Balance, $42.73. A lump formed in her throat. Rent was due in 3 days. Her car needed oil. Aiden's field trip money was past due. And here she was, giving away grilled cheese like she was Oprah. What if Pete cut her hours? What if he fired her? Would helping that kid be worth it? That afternoon, the diner's front door opened with a familiar jingle. Emma's heart kicked up in her chest. It was him. The boy. Same gray hoodie. Same hunched shoulders. Same silent entrance. Booth 9. Emma walked over slowly, plate already in hand, a warm ham and cheese sandwich and a small cup of applesauce. She placed it in front of him gently. No charge. Just eat, okay? The boy didn't look up at first. Then he did. And for the first time, he spoke more than 2 words. My name's Liam, he said quietly. Emma blinked. I'm Emma, she said softly. It's good to meet you, Liam. He nodded, then dug into the sandwich like it was his last meal. For a moment, everything else, the bills, the pressure, Pete's lectures, faded away. But Pete saw. From the kitchen pass window, he watched the exchange like a hawk. And this time, he didn't just mutter. He came out swinging. What is this? Pete snapped. You feeding him again? Emma stood her ground. He told me his name today. He's opening up. That means something. You're not a therapist. You're a waitress. Emma's eyes darkened. And you're a manager who cares more about a sandwich than a starving kid. Do you know where he's from? What if he's trouble? He's 10, Pete. He's hungry, not dangerous. Pete's voice rose. If I catch you giving out one more freebie, I'll start docking your shifts. Denise stepped in before things exploded further. Cool it, both of you. Jesus, it's a sandwich, not stock fraud. Pete pointed a finger. Not another comp, Emma. I mean it. Then he walked off. Emma glanced back at Liam. He was frozen. His hands had stopped mid-bite. His eyes full of shame. Emma knelt beside the booth. You didn't do anything wrong, she whispered. He shook his head slowly. You'll get in trouble. Emma smiled. Some things are worth it. He stared at her for a long moment. Then, for the first time, he smiled back. Later, after the rush died down, Emma found a folded napkin on the table where Liam had sat. It wasn't from the diner's stack. This one had neat handwriting. Tiny, clean, almost printed. You will be rewarded. Soon. Emma's hands shook as she unfolded the rest. There was no signature. Just a symbol. A small, simple design, a circle with 3 diagonal lines through it. It looked futuristic. Or scientific. Or like something out of a tech company logo. Denise walked over, noticed the look on her face. That another note? Emma nodded, holding it up. Denise squinted. What's that symbol? Emma had no idea. But deep in her gut, a strange mix of fear and wonder began to stir. Something was happening. Something big. That night, at home, after Aiden had fallen asleep, Emma sat at her kitchen table, staring at both notes, the black card from yesterday and the napkin from today. She opened her laptop. Typed the words into Google. Circle with 3 diagonal lines tech logo. One result stood out. She clicked it. And froze. There, in bold letters on a sleek, minimal website. X, a company building the future. An initiative by Elon Musk. Emma's blood turned to ice. Liam hadn't just told anyone about her. He'd told Elon Musk. Emma stared at her screen like it had just whispered her name. There it was, staring back at her in minimalist grayscale. A slick, understated landing page. X, a company building the future. An initiative by Elon Musk. No clutter. No ads. No distractions. Just a looping video of satellites moving in slow orbit, intercut with abstract glimpses of hyperspeed transportation pods and AI interface concepts. And right in the top corner of the screen, that same strange symbol. The circle with 3 diagonal lines. Her heart thudded like a drum in her chest. This wasn't just some kid scribbling doodles. The note left on the napkin today, the one Liam had handed her without ever speaking, had the exact same mark. This wasn't coincidence. This was intentional. She didn't know how. She didn't know why. But it was real. She clicked on a tab labeled Access Points. The page flickered. Then a password prompt appeared. Access denied. No way in. But just before it booted her back to the homepage, a message flashed across the top corner of her screen. Thank you for feeding him. The future eats too. She gasped. The message disappeared a second later. Emma slammed her laptop shut like it might explode. Her hands were shaking. She pushed back from the table, heart in her throat. She looked over at Aiden, curled up on the couch under his space blanket, sleeping with his mouth open. The dim light of the hallway cast soft shadows across the living room. Everything was calm. Still. But nothing felt normal. Emma didn't sleep that night. She tossed and turned, her mind unraveling everything she'd ever known about the last few days. The silent boy. The notes. The envelope. The symbol. Elon Musk. How did this kid know someone like that? Was Liam a runaway? Some kind of child genius? A test subject? That last thought chilled her. She told herself it was ridiculous. And yet. By morning, she looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her face was pale, eyes rimmed in fatigue. But she had work. Life didn't pause for mysteries, especially not when you were late on rent. At the diner, Denise took one look at her and whistled. You look like you saw a ghost. Emma wiped her eyes with the heel of her hand. Something like that. Denise poured her a coffee and slid it over. Well, drink up. If today's anything like yesterday, we're in for a crowd of angry caffeine addicts. Emma offered a weak smile, but her mind wasn't in the room. She opened her phone, pulled up the X site again. Same layout. Same message. Building the future. She checked Reddit. Twitter. News aggregators. Not much about it anywhere. Not in mainstream media. Not even in tech blogs. Which was weird. A new Musk initiative usually flooded the internet in 5 minutes or less. But this? This felt stealthy. Almost underground. And Liam had brought it right into her life. Around mid-morning, as the breakfast crowd thinned, the bell over the door rang. Emma looked up. And froze. It wasn't Liam. It was a man in a black suit, tall, with dark glasses, even inside, and a calm, professional air that screamed government or private security. He didn't speak to anyone. Just walked up to the counter and handed her a small card. No logo. No contact info. Just one line in printed block letters. Don't talk about X. Then he turned and left. Just like that. Denise picked up the card after the guy left. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and say, what the actual hell is going on? Emma swallowed hard. I think I'm being watched. Is this about that website? Emma nodded slowly. And the boy. Liam. This is bigger than we thought. Denise looked nervous now. And she didn't get nervous. You need to tell someone. Police, maybe. Or the FBI. Emma laughed without humor. Yeah, let me just walk into the sheriff's office and say, hey, Elon Musk may have left a tech-branded secret child in my booth and I'm being followed by men in black suits. That'll go great. Denise was silent for a moment. Then, okay. Good point. By late afternoon, booth 9 was still empty. No Liam. No notes. But Emma could feel it. The air was different. The place had an electric charge she couldn't explain. Then something strange happened. A man in his 20s came in, a new face. He was dressed casually, wore sneakers that looked like they belonged on a spaceship. He didn't order food. Just sat at the counter and quietly pulled out a tablet. After a few minutes, he caught her eye. Emma Carter. She tensed. Yeah. He smiled faintly. You don't know me, but I work with X. Her heart stopped. He continued. I can't say much. But the boy, Liam, he's not in danger. He was sent to observe. He picked you. Emma blinked. Observe what? You. How you treat people when you have nothing. How you handle pressure. Compassion under stress. Elon's project depends on it. Why me? She asked. I'm a waitress. The man smiled again. Exactly. Before she could speak, he got up, left a crisp $100 bill on the counter, and walked out. Denise walked over, mouth open. I heard all of that. I think I need to lie down. Emma stared at the door the man had just exited through. Then back down at the $100 bill. She picked it up. On the underside, scribbled in perfect penmanship, was a small note. The test isn't over. Get ready. That night, Emma watched Aiden sleep and wondered what kind of world he was about to grow up in. Because hers just changed forever. The next morning arrived like a whisper instead of a bang. There were no strange men at the door. No envelopes. No messages. No Liam. Just the quiet hum of the fridge, the click of the heater turning on, and the gentle creak of the wooden floor as Emma shuffled through the kitchen in her slippers. But the stillness didn't bring peace. It brought dread. The kind of dread that coils in your stomach when everything's too calm, like the world is holding its breath right before it punches you in the gut. Emma stared out the window as the sun began to rise. Frost traced delicate patterns across the glass. It was beautiful. Fragile. She touched the envelope still sitting on the table. She hadn't thrown it out. Couldn't. Next to it sat the note from Liam, the black business card, and the $100 bill from the mystery man with the tablet. 4 pieces of paper that had cracked open her ordinary life. She didn't know what she was part of anymore. But she knew she wasn't just a waitress now. Aiden came into the kitchen, rubbing his eyes. Mom. She smiled and crouched down to hug him. Hey, bud. He looked up. Why were you standing there like a statue? Emma pulled back, brushing his messy hair out of his eyes. Just thinking. About space stuff again? She nodded. Yeah, actually. Aiden's eyes lit up. Do you think Elon Musk is, like, watching everybody? Emma hesitated. I don't know, sweetie. He grinned. I hope so. Maybe he'll make you famous. She chuckled. I think I'd settle for getting the car to start without a prayer. At the diner, everything felt just slightly off. Denise noticed it too. The jukebox glitched mid-song. The fryer cut out for 10 minutes, then kicked back on like nothing happened. The phone rang twice, but there was no one on the other end. Harvey still showed up for his BLT, but when Emma handed him the check, he just stared at it and muttered, "You ever feel like someone's watching you?" Emma froze. What do you mean? He shrugged. I dunno. Just, a feeling. Like I'm on a stage or something. Weird, huh? Weird didn't even begin to cover it. Booth 9 remained empty. But Emma kept glancing at it, waiting for Liam's hoodie to reappear like a ghost returning to its haunt. It didn't. Instead, at exactly 11:11 a.m., the diner's lights flickered. Just once. And when they came back on, a small envelope sat in the center of Booth 9's table. No one had seen it placed there. No one had walked in or out. It just was. Emma walked over slowly. This one was different. It was sealed with wax, an actual seal, like something from a royal invitation. The emblem embedded in it. The same symbol. The circle with 3 diagonal lines. Her fingers trembled as she peeled it open. Inside, a single card with a line typed in the same sharp font as before. You passed the first phase. Are you ready for the next? Beneath it was a QR code. That was it. No instructions. No explanation. She slid into the booth and stared at the card. The QR code pulsed slightly under the overhead light. Not literally, but it felt like it was drawing her in. Denise slid into the booth across from her. Okay. Real talk. What happens if you scan it? Emma didn't look up. I don't know. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. Denise leaned in. You really think this is Elon Musk? Emma shrugged. I think it's something he's behind. Or something he wants me to be part of. And you're considering it? Emma finally looked at her. Wouldn't you? Denise sat back, folding her arms. Hell no. But I don't have your instincts. You've always seen things in people before they saw it in themselves. Even in me. Emma smiled faintly. So that's a no to covering my shifts if I disappear into a spaceship. Oh, I'll cover. I just want your tip jar. They both laughed, but it faded fast. Because deep down, they both knew this wasn't a joke. That night, Emma waited until Aiden was asleep. She sat in the quiet of her kitchen, the glow of the card's QR code reflecting in her eyes from her phone screen. She scanned it. A black screen opened. Then white text appeared. Confirmed. Phase 2 begins in 72 hours. You will be contacted. No sound. No buttons to press. Just those words. Then the screen faded to black. Emma sat in the dark, heart pounding. 3 days. What was coming in 3 days? She checked the diner's security camera footage from earlier, an old habit from when weird customers would skip out on the bill. She scrubbed through the moment the lights flickered. Nothing. Booth 9 was empty. Then it glitched for a second. And when the feed resumed, the envelope was there. No person. No movement. No hand reaching out. It had just appeared. Like magic. Or tech so advanced, it might as well be magic. Emma sat back, chilled to the bone. The next day passed without incident. Then the next. Then the third. No new notes. No strange visitors. No Liam. Only the silence of something enormous moving just out of view. The calm before the storm. And then. At 9 p.m. sharp, her phone rang. No caller ID. She answered. A robotic voice spoke, calm and clear. Emma Carter. You have been selected. A pause. A car will arrive at your home in 6 hours. Bring nothing. Do not tell anyone. Click. Line dead. Emma stood in her kitchen, her phone still to her ear, staring at the wall like she'd been struck by lightning. This wasn't a test anymore. It was real. And it was coming. At exactly 11:59 p.m., Emma stood in her small kitchen, hands trembling around a cup of instant coffee she wasn't drinking. The house was silent. The kind of silence that feels like it's listening. Aiden was asleep, curled up in his race car bed, completely unaware that his mother was about to vanish into something she couldn't explain. She'd kissed his forehead twice. Laid out breakfast for him on the counter. Left a note that said she'd be home soon, but needed a few days. She didn't believe that note any more than a stranger would. But what else could she do? 12 a.m. The headlights hit her front window like a spotlight. The hum of a sleek, electric engine whispered through the night. Emma slowly stepped out onto the porch. A black car, unmarked, window-tinted, almost completely silent, sat at the curb. It wasn't a Tesla, but it wasn't something she recognized either. The design was unfamiliar. Smooth. Minimal. Almost, not yet released. The back door opened by itself. No one stepped out. Just an empty seat and the soft blue glow of interior lights. Emma looked back at the front door of her house one last time. She didn't take her phone. Didn't take her bag. Just her. And then she got in. Inside, the car was utterly quiet, like riding through a vacuum. There was no driver. Only a screen embedded in the back of the front seat. It flickered on the moment the door closed. Welcome, Emma Carter. Destination, undisclosed. Estimated arrival, 2 hours, 17 minutes. The seat adjusted itself to her posture. A gentle hum of ambient music began to play, something orchestral but low, like it was designed to calm a racing heart. Too late for that. She leaned back, breathing shallow. The car began to move, smoothly, silently, like it wasn't even touching the ground. City lights faded fast, swallowed by dark highways and empty roads. Streetlights turned sparse. Then non-existent. The sky opened wide above them, stars hanging low like they were watching her too. Emma couldn't help but whisper, "What the hell is this?" The screen responded instantly. Phase 2. She leaned forward. "Can I ask, who's behind this?" Another pause. Then text appeared. X. She shook her head. Is Elon Musk involved? Another pause. Then. He will meet you soon. Emma sat back, heart skipping a beat. She had imagined this moment, joked about it, even. The idea of some tech billionaire plucking her out of her small-town diner life. But now. Now it felt like standing on the edge of a cliff in the dark. 2 hours and 17 minutes later, right on time, the car slowed to a gentle stop. Emma looked out the window. They were in the desert. Nothing around but flat land, rocks, and a horizon lit only by the moon. And then. A metal panel in the ground hissed open. The car lowered. Into the earth. Emma gasped as the vehicle descended into a cylindrical chamber, lights lining the walls, scanning the car, tracking it as it dropped deeper and deeper. When the descent stopped, a door slid open. And waiting in the hallway was a woman in a silver coat, tablet in hand, no expression on her face. "Emma Carter," she said, voice clipped and calm. "This way, please." Emma followed, heart hammering against her chest like it wanted out. They walked through a corridor of glass and metal. Everything shimmered under soft lighting, no harsh fluorescence here. It felt like stepping into the future. On one side, Emma caught a glimpse of something behind a glass wall, rows of workstations, holographic models suspended mid-air, people in white jackets moving around like clockwork. On the other side, a dark room where sleek drones hovered silently in place, like they were waiting for orders. This wasn't just a lab. This was a launch pad. They turned a corner, past a sliding door labeled Observation Bay 3. Emma slowed when she saw what was inside. Liam. He was standing in front of a screen, surrounded by a small team. He looked different, more alert, more focused, but still unmistakably him. She pressed her hand to the glass. Liam turned. Saw her. And smiled. The kind of smile that said, "I told you someone was watching." Then he turned back to the screen, pointing to something on the display. They listened to him. They were listening to a child. Emma barely had time to process it when the woman in the silver coat gestured ahead. "Mr. Musk is ready for you." Emma blinked. I'm sorry. What? Now? Yes, the woman said plainly. He requested to speak with you personally. You've made an impression. Emma swallowed hard and followed her through one last set of doors. The room was nothing like what she expected. No throne. No boardroom. Just a quiet, minimalist space with a long glass wall overlooking the desert above. The stars shone through. And sitting on a couch, barefoot, in a black t-shirt and joggers. Elon Musk. He looked up as she entered and smiled faintly. Emma Carter, he said. Thanks for coming. Emma stared, unsure if this was real. Hi, she said. I didn't exactly RSVP. He chuckled. No one does. A pause. Then he gestured to the chair across from him. Have a seat. I want to tell you why Liam chose you. Emma sat, mind reeling. This was it. No more guessing. No more notes. No more waiting. This was the storm. And she had just walked straight into its eye. The air in the room felt heavy, like the walls were closing in on her. The soft hum of machinery, the faint buzz of electronic monitors, everything seemed to amplify, like the world was holding its breath, waiting for the moment of revelation. Emma sat across from Elon Musk. The man who had reshaped the world with rockets, electric cars, and promises of humanity's future on Mars. But now, in this room under the desert, he seemed oddly ordinary. He wasn't dressed in a suit. No fancy office chair. Just him, sitting on a couch, with a quiet intensity in his eyes. Liam, Emma started, unsure how to frame the question. Is he really a part of this? He's just a kid. How is he even? Elon held up his hand gently, cutting her off. I know you have questions, Emma. And I'm going to give you the answers. But you need to understand something first. He leaned forward slightly, his gaze fixing on her with an intensity that made her breath catch. You were chosen, Elon said, his voice calm but laced with something she couldn't quite place. For a reason. It's not just because you serve coffee in a diner. It's because of something far deeper. Something we've been studying for years. Emma's pulse quickened. What do you mean? He paused, then pressed a button on a tablet next to him. A holographic screen appeared in the air between them, casting a faint blue glow. I'm sure you've wondered, like most people do, what makes some individuals unique, he said, tapping the screen. Why some people are born with a sense of something more, a calling. A connection to something beyond the everyday. Emma felt a chill crawl up her spine as the screen began to display a series of diagrams. Patterns. Shapes. The kind of data you'd expect from a physics lab or some kind of neural mapping project. Your mind, Emma, Elon continued, is different. It's not just your ability to connect with people. It's how you process the world around you. There's a resonance, a pattern in your thoughts, your actions. It's rare. Elon's words felt surreal, like a dream, but something deep within her, a quiet understanding, told her that this was no ordinary conversation. He kept talking, explaining, and showing her data that made her head spin. But the core of it all, the thing that kept her sitting there, wide-eyed and speechless, was this. You've been part of something larger for much longer than you realize, Elon said, looking directly at her. Since the moment you first served Liam at your diner. Emma sat back, trying to digest the words. I don't understand. What does Liam have to do with all of this? Elon's eyes softened. Liam is part of something we've been working on, something we've been preparing for. And you're part of that preparation. He swiped his tablet again, and the holographic screen shifted to show an image of Liam. It wasn't just a typical picture, it was a detailed analysis, the kind of scan you'd expect from a top-secret government facility. Liam is more than just a smart kid. He's a connector, Elon said, his voice lowering as if sharing a secret. His mind, his abilities, they don't operate like everyone else's. We've been tracking people like him for years, looking for the next step in human evolution. We call it the resonance. And you, Emma, are part of it. Emma stared at the image of Liam, her mind struggling to make sense of what she was hearing. She thought of the way he had acted at the diner, his quiet confidence, his strange ability to read people. Are you saying Liam can, control people? She asked, her voice trembling. No, Elon replied, shaking his head. It's not control. It's deeper than that. He can influence the way people think, feel, and even how they see the world. And you, Emma, you're the key to making it happen. Your connection to him is more than just fate. It's by design. Emma felt a wave of nausea wash over her. She hadn't asked for any of this. She was just a waitress in a small town, trying to make ends meet. She didn't want to be part of some grand plan, especially not one that seemed to involve her son in ways she couldn't comprehend. But Elon's gaze didn't waver. You've already begun the process, Emma. The moment you interacted with Liam, your brain began to synchronize with his. The same way two musicians can harmonize perfectly, you and Liam have begun to align on a level most people can't even understand. Emma stood up, suddenly feeling like the walls were closing in on her. I don't know if I can do this, she muttered. This is too much. I'm just a mom, trying to keep my kids safe. I didn't sign up for any of this. Elon followed her gaze, his expression softening. I understand. But you're already in this. You don't have to be afraid. You're not alone. Liam needs you. And we need you both to take the next step. A moment of silence stretched between them. Elon's gaze never left her, a quiet understanding passing between them. I know you don't fully grasp what I'm telling you yet, Elon said, his voice firm but gentle. But in time, you will. And when you do, you'll see why this is bigger than both of you. He stood up slowly, walking toward a table in the corner. From it, he picked up a small, sleek device, a bracelet, made of polished black metal with a simple, intricate design. This is for you, Elon said, holding it out to her. It's a communicator. A way to stay in contact with us directly. We'll be guiding you, Emma. Every step of the way. Emma hesitated, her fingers brushing the cool surface of the bracelet. Her world had just cracked wide open. Every instinct told her to refuse, to run back to her normal life. But she couldn't deny the pull. It was as if this moment was the culmination of everything she'd been waiting for, even if she hadn't known it. I'm not sure I can do this, she repeated softly. You don't have to be sure, Elon said, a rare smile tugging at his lips. You just have to take the next step. Emma stared down at the bracelet in her hand, the weight of it sinking in. This was the moment. She could walk away. Or she could step into the unknown. And for the first time in what felt like forever, she realized she was ready. Emma stood still, her heart thundering in her chest as the sleek black bracelet sat heavy in her palm. The room was silent, save for the faint hum of machinery in the background. She felt the weight of the decision hanging over her like an oppressive cloud. The truth was, she wasn't sure she had a choice anymore. She'd already been swept into something so much bigger than herself, something that had started the moment Liam walked into her diner. She could deny it, refuse it, but deep down, she knew there was no going back. Elon Musk stood beside her, patient, waiting. His gaze wasn't demanding, but it was steady, unwavering, like he knew she was going to make the right choice, even if she didn't feel ready. You don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with, Emma, he said, his voice calm. But this is bigger than you, and it's bigger than Liam, too. This is about the future. About humanity's future. And you, both of you, are at the center of it. Emma looked down at the bracelet again. It was simple but elegant, the kind of thing she might expect to see on the wrist of a high-tech CEO or someone with a lot of power. She could almost feel the weight of it becoming more than just a piece of metal. It represented something, some future she wasn't sure she was ready to embrace. "I didn't ask for this," she said, her voice shaky, her hands trembling as she clasped the bracelet in both palms. "I'm just a waitress. I don't know anything about saving the world. Or the future, or whatever this is." "I understand," Elon said. "But you've already been a part of it. You've always been part of it. From the moment you met Liam, your paths were destined to cross. All of this, has been waiting for you." His words echoed in her mind like a bell tolling, deep and resonant. What was waiting for her? What would this new life look like? "What exactly is it you want from me?" she asked, her voice quieter now, more vulnerable. She could feel her pulse racing again, the uncertainty gnawing at her. "And Liam, what's his role in all of this? He's just a kid. He doesn't even know what's happening." Elon took a deep breath, his eyes narrowing as he thought for a moment. "Liam is the key to understanding the resonance, the unique ability to connect people's minds, to synchronize them with one another. But it's not just about him, Emma. It's about both of you. Together, you can amplify that connection. That's why you were chosen. The bracelet is a tool to help you both, help you understand what's happening inside of you, and guide you on this journey." Emma closed her eyes for a second, trying to process what he had said. The weight of it all seemed so overwhelming. She had never asked for any of this. She had just wanted a peaceful life, to raise her son, to keep food on the table, and to make it through each day. But here she was, standing in front of one of the most powerful men in the world, being asked to step into something she couldn't even fully comprehend. She thought of Liam, of his quiet intelligence, the way he had seemed to see right through people. The way he had seen her in a way no one else ever had. But was it all real? Or was she just caught up in something too big to control? "You keep saying it's bigger than me," Emma said, her voice faltering. "But how do I know it's the right thing? How do I know I'm not just a pawn in someone else's game?" Elon's expression softened, and he took a step closer, lowering his voice. "Because, Emma," he said, "this isn't about anyone else's game. It's about your choice. About your ability to shape the future. And yes, I know it's hard to see right now, but you'll have the power to decide what happens next. The future doesn't belong to anyone except those who are willing to make the hard choices. And this is your moment." Emma stood frozen, the weight of his words pressing down on her. Her mind raced, torn between everything she knew, her son, her home, her life, and the uncertainty of what lay beyond that door. Was she ready to walk away from everything to step into something unknown? Could she really trust Elon Musk, someone who seemed to be orchestrating all of this, or was he using her and Liam for some greater purpose? She looked at the bracelet again. She knew this wasn't just a decision about the bracelet. It was about whether or not she could trust herself, whether she could trust her own instincts. Could she take this step? Could she really leave behind the life she'd built? "What happens if I say no?" Emma asked quietly, her voice trembling. Elon was silent for a moment, as though weighing his response carefully. "Then we leave. You go back to your life. And we move forward without you. But you'll always know the truth, that you were part of something that could have changed everything. And if you ever want to come back, the door will be open." Emma's heart raced. The decision before her felt impossibly heavy. She didn't know what was more terrifying, stepping into this unknown world or walking away and wondering what could have been. For a long time, Emma didn't speak. The quiet in the room was suffocating, the weight of her decision pressing down on her shoulders. And then, finally, she looked up at Elon, her eyes filled with uncertainty, but also something else, something that had been growing in her heart, something she hadn't wanted to acknowledge. "I'm scared," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. He nodded, his expression softening. "Fear is natural. But it doesn't have to control you. You have the power to choose what comes next, Emma. The future is waiting, but it's yours to shape." Emma took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. She looked at the bracelet one last time, her fingers tracing its cool, smooth surface. Her mind was still racing, but a small spark of clarity flickered within her. She knew what she had to do. "I'm in," she said, her voice steady now. "I'll do it. I'll help you." Elon smiled. It wasn't the smile of a businessman making a deal. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting for this moment. "Good," he said, his voice soft but full of conviction. "Let's get started. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?" The world seemed to tilt as Emma stepped into the training facility. The air was thick with a sense of purpose, and the sharp scent of antiseptic mixed with something else, something far more exhilarating. It wasn't just the sterile, modern technology or the sleek designs that had been crafted with military precision. It was the feeling that she was on the cusp of something massive, something that could change her life, and the lives of millions, forever. Elon led her through the facility, his steps measured and calm, but his eyes flickered with something unreadable, anticipation. Perhaps he'd been waiting for this day for much longer than Emma could understand. "Take a deep breath," he said as they reached the main training room. The door swished open, revealing a massive space filled with high-tech screens, glowing wires, and what appeared to be holographic simulations floating mid-air. Everything felt futuristic, and yet, at the same time, it felt familiar, as if it was pulling something deep within her to the surface. "Welcome to the resonance chamber," Elon said. "This is where you and Liam will begin your training. The journey you're about to embark on is unlike anything you've ever experienced. It's not just physical. It's mental, emotional, and spiritual. But above all, it's connected." Emma nodded, her heart pounding. She didn't know what to expect, but she was more sure of one thing than ever: this wasn't just about Liam anymore. This was about her too. She had made the choice. She had accepted the bracelet. And now, there was no turning back. "Liam's already here?" she asked, glancing around. "He is," Elon replied. "He's been preparing as well. His abilities are unique, but they need to be honed, just like yours. You've already started to synchronize with him, but we need to amplify that connection." Emma looked toward the far corner of the room, where Liam stood. He was looking down at a glowing tablet, his brow furrowed in concentration. For a moment, she felt a surge of love and protectiveness. He was still her son, the same quiet boy she'd raised. But he was different now. His eyes held a knowledge beyond his years, and his presence seemed to radiate something she couldn't quite explain. Elon followed her gaze. "You're going to have to trust him more than you've ever trusted anyone before," he said. "You've been linked together in ways that are deeper than family, deeper than even the most intimate relationships. You'll begin to understand that soon." A sharp twinge of fear hit Emma's chest. Was she ready for this? She'd always done everything to protect Liam. But was she ready to dive into something so much bigger than them both? Liam turned toward them, his expression softening when he saw her. He walked over slowly, his usual quiet confidence radiating from him. "You're going to be okay, Mom," Liam said, his voice surprisingly calm. "We can do this." For a moment, Emma saw a glimpse of the boy she had always known, a boy who still needed her, even though the world seemed to be pulling him in a different direction. Elon gestured to the center of the room. "All right, Emma. Time to begin." The first part of the training was far from what Emma expected. It wasn't about physical endurance or memorizing instructions. It was about connecting. Elon asked her to sit cross-legged in the center of the chamber, with Liam standing a few feet away, his eyes closed in concentration. "Close your eyes, Emma," Elon instructed. "Focus on your breathing. Allow your thoughts to quiet. Feel your pulse, the rhythm of your heart." Emma did as she was told, taking slow, deep breaths. She felt her pulse steady and her body relax. But something else was happening. A strange sensation began to fill her, like an invisible thread was connecting her to Liam. It wasn't just the awareness of his presence, it was deeper. It was as though his thoughts and hers were beginning to align in subtle ways. She could almost feel the shift in the air, like the two of them were sharing an unspoken language. "You're feeling it, aren't you?" Elon's voice cut through the silence. Emma nodded, her throat dry. "Yes. It's like, something is happening inside of me." "You're starting to attune yourself to Liam's resonance," Elon explained. "This is just the beginning. As you strengthen your bond, you'll be able to communicate without words, without even needing to think. It's instinctual. Your minds will be in harmony." Emma's thoughts raced. She had no idea how to navigate this new reality, how to make sense of the overwhelming wave of emotion and connection that was rising within her. "Liam," Elon said, turning his attention to the boy. "Now, focus on her. Let your connection grow stronger." Liam closed his eyes again, and for a moment, there was a quiet stillness in the air. Then, Emma felt it, like a gentle pull, a hum in her chest, pulling her deeper into this shared space. Suddenly, images began to flash in her mind, snapshots of moments she'd never lived, but felt deeply. Her life before Liam, her struggles as a single mother, the love she had for her son, her deepest fears and desires. And then, it was Liam. His thoughts flooding into hers, his fears, his questions, his yearning for answers. "Do you see?" Elon's voice broke through the overwhelming sensations. "This is how it begins. This is the power you both hold, the key to everything." Emma gasped, her breath coming in sharp, erratic bursts. The images were too much, too overwhelming. But there was something else, a quiet calm beneath it all, like a thread of stability running through the chaos. She opened her eyes to find Liam standing before her, his hand outstretched. He was waiting for her to take it. Without thinking, Emma reached out, her fingers brushing his. In that instant, everything shifted. The room seemed to dissolve around them. Emma found herself in a place that felt both foreign and familiar, a vast, endless expanse of light and energy. She could feel Liam beside her, the connection between them palpable. Elon's voice echoed around them. "Now, you're seeing it. This is the resonance, the power that can change the world." Emma took a deep breath. She had no idea what she was stepping into, but there was a strange sense of clarity in this moment. She wasn't just a waitress. She wasn't just a mother. She was part of something much larger. And it was time to embrace it. Emma's head spun as she stood in the quiet aftermath of the resonance chamber, the echoes of her and Liam's shared experience still lingering in the air. For a moment, it felt like the world had been stripped bare, leaving only the raw truth of their connection exposed. The training had shown her glimpses, flashes of what was to come, but she had no idea just how deep the rabbit hole went. Her eyes darted around the room as Elon's voice broke the silence. "Well done," he said. His tone was not congratulatory, but more, thoughtful. "You've unlocked something powerful today." Emma's pulse quickened. She still wasn't sure exactly what had happened in that strange space, but the overwhelming flood of images, memories, emotions, and even questions, had left her breathless. It had felt like a doorway opening, but the truth was, she didn't know what lay beyond it. "What just happened?" Emma's voice was unsteady, her words lingering in the air as she searched for some kind of explanation. "You've just touched the surface," Elon replied, his gaze steady as he approached her. "The resonance between you and Liam is more than just a connection. It's an awakening. The true nature of it is far more intricate than you think. But now that you're starting to experience it, there's something you both need to understand." Liam, who had remained eerily quiet until now, shifted uneasily beside her. His eyes were distant, as though he, too, was processing everything that had just transpired. "What do you mean, more intricate?" Emma asked, trying to steady her breath. She had always prided herself on being able to keep her emotions in check, but right now, everything felt like it was slipping through her fingers. Elon took a deep breath. The resonance isn't just a passive link between you two. It's active, it allows you to influence the world around you, even manipulate reality in certain ways. But it goes deeper than that. The truth is, you're part of something much bigger, something that has been in motion for centuries. Emma's mind raced. Centuries, she echoed. What do you mean? And why didn't you tell us this sooner? Liam's eyes narrowed, his hand instinctively reaching for Emma's. She could feel the unease radiating off of him, mirroring her own confusion. Because I didn't think you were ready, Elon said, his voice gentle but firm. The resonance you're tapping into, this connection, it's not something anyone can just understand. It requires a level of trust, of comprehension, that takes time to build. And more than anything, you both need to understand what it means. What it could cost. Emma glanced down at Liam, his fingers gripping hers tightly, as though they were both trying to hold on to something solid in the chaos. She couldn't help but feel protective of him, like the mother inside her was screaming for answers she didn't have. You're telling me that all this time, we've been part of something larger. Something that's been going on for hundreds of years. Emma's voice was a mixture of disbelief and growing fear. Elon nodded slowly. Exactly. The resonance is not a new phenomenon. It's something that has existed throughout human history, passed down in select families, in select bloodlines. You and Liam are not just connected by chance. You're part of a long line of people who have been called to carry out a mission, one that will shape the future of humanity. The room seemed to close in on her as Emma's mind spun. A mission? What kind of mission? You're talking about something so much bigger than just us. What does it mean for Liam? For me? Elon's expression softened, as though he understood the weight of her words. He walked over to a large screen on the wall, typing something into a holographic interface. The screen flickered to life, revealing an ancient-looking symbol, a design that resembled intertwined spirals. This symbol, Elon said, is part of a secret society, a network of individuals and families who have been safeguarding the resonance for generations. They've known about its power and have protected it, ensuring it's never used recklessly. Emma's stomach tightened. You mean, this isn't just about us? No, Elon said. It's about a legacy. It's about the responsibility that comes with the power you now hold. There are forces, dark forces, that have been trying to control the resonance for their own purposes, to twist it for power, for manipulation. That's why we've kept it hidden. That's why we've kept you hidden. Liam, who had been silent up until now, spoke up. Who are these people? Who are we supposed to be fighting? Elon turned to face him, his expression more serious than Emma had ever seen it. You're not just fighting for survival. You're fighting for the future of the world. This is bigger than anything you can imagine, Liam. But the most dangerous part is that you don't even know who the true enemy is yet. Emma felt a chill run down her spine. The thought of Liam, her son, being thrust into this world of secret societies and hidden wars was almost too much to bear. How could she protect him from something so dangerous, so beyond anything they had ever faced? Wait, Emma said, trying to make sense of it all. Are you telling me that Liam and I are supposed to be some kind of saviors? The only ones who can stop this? Elon's face softened again, but there was no hint of comfort in his expression. Not saviors. Guardians. You'll need to protect the resonance. And you'll need to make choices that could save or destroy everything. The weight of Elon's words settled over Emma like a suffocating blanket. She glanced at Liam, whose face had become pale, his eyes wide with both fear and curiosity. The bond between them was stronger now, but so was the danger. She could feel it in every fiber of her being. The world was no longer the safe place she had known, and there was no turning back. Liam squeezed her hand tighter. What do we do now? Elon looked between them, his expression grim. Now, you train. Now, you learn. The true battle is just beginning. The next few weeks felt like an endless blur. Elon's training sessions were relentless. Every day, Emma and Liam were pushed further into the resonance, their minds and bodies stretched beyond what they thought was possible. They honed their connection, learning how to manipulate the world around them, to shift the energies of the universe. It was exhausting, but there were moments when Emma could feel the power stirring inside her, a power that was as beautiful as it was terrifying. As they trained, the sense of impending danger grew. The darkness Elon had spoken of was closing in. The question was no longer if they would be attacked, but when. The air felt heavier the morning Emma and Liam prepared for their next training session. It wasn't just the weight of the mission pressing down on them, it was something more, something intangible that gnawed at the edges of their awareness. There was a storm brewing, she could feel it, and Liam could, too. They'd been training for weeks now, pushing their limits, expanding the resonance between them. They could communicate without words, a silent conversation that pulsed between them like an invisible thread. But as the days passed, the power they were learning to control only seemed to grow more volatile. Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something, or someone, was out there, waiting for them to slip. "You ready?" Elon's voice broke into her thoughts as he approached them. His usual calm demeanor was laced with a rare edge of urgency. Emma glanced at Liam. He didn't say anything, but his tight grip on her hand was enough to convey his anxiety. "I don't know, Elon," Emma said, her voice quiet but resolute. "Something feels off. I can't shake the feeling that we're being watched." "You're right," Elon said, his voice low. "But you're not just being watched. You're being hunted." Liam's face paled. "Hunted? By who?" Elon looked toward the door, where the morning sunlight filtered through the glass, casting long shadows across the floor. He paused, gathering his words as if choosing them carefully. "The resonance is not just a gift. It's a beacon. And there are people, groups, who have been trying to control it for centuries. Some of them have used it for dark purposes. Others are much worse." "Worse?" Emma echoed, her voice barely above a whisper. "How can anything be worse than controlling this power?" Elon's eyes darkened. "Because there are forces out there who want to destroy the resonance. To eradicate the very possibility of it ever existing again. They won't stop until you and Liam are no longer a threat to them." Emma's stomach churned. She looked at Liam, whose eyes were filled with both fear and determination. The weight of their reality was beginning to settle in. They were no longer just mother and son, they were part of something far larger, and with that came an unimaginable responsibility. "We're being targeted, then?" Liam asked, his voice steady despite the storm raging inside him. "Yes," Elon replied. "And today, you will learn exactly what that means." The first sign that something was wrong came when the walls of the training facility suddenly flickered. The lights dimmed briefly before coming back to life, and the sound of electrical interference buzzed in the air. Emma felt the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. Someone, had breached their security. "Stay close," Elon said, his voice tight with warning. "It's begun." Liam's hand tightened around hers. "What do we do?" "We fight," Elon said, without hesitation. "But first, you must learn how to control your resonance fully. You can't afford to hold back any longer." They rushed to the central command room, where screens covered the walls, each one displaying a series of readings and surveillance footage from across the facility. Elon began typing rapidly into a console, his movements quick and precise. Emma stood with Liam, her heart hammering in her chest. She could feel the resonance between them pulsing with intensity, like an electric current that ran just beneath her skin. But it was more than that, there was a presence in the room now, a shadow that felt wrong, dangerous. "It's them," Elon muttered under his breath, his fingers still dancing across the screen. "The Watchers. They found us." Emma turned to Liam, her voice low and urgent. "What are the Watchers? What do they want with us?" The Watchers are a faction, Elon explained, his gaze never leaving the screen. They've been hunting the resonance for generations, trying to harness it for their own dark purposes. They believe that by controlling the resonance, they can control everything, time, space, even the future. They will stop at nothing to destroy anyone who stands in their way. Emma's breath caught in her throat. But we're not ready. We don't know enough about how to control it. You're more ready than you realize, Elon replied, his voice steady but laced with urgency. Liam has always been attuned to it, but now you both need to act as one. You must learn to trust each other completely. The resonance can be a weapon if you know how to wield it. Liam's grip on Emma's hand was firm, but she could feel his anxiety rippling through their connection. How do we fight them? He asked, his voice strained. You don't fight them the way you think, Elon said. You outsmart them. You use the resonance. You change the game. This isn't about brute force, it's about precision and control. Before Emma could respond, the room's lights flickered again. But this time, the shadow she felt was more tangible. The air grew thick with a sense of impending doom, and the resonance between her and Liam surged like a tide, rising faster than she could catch it. The door to the command room exploded open, and 3 figures stepped into the doorway, their presence like a dark cloud in the room. The figures were cloaked in black, their features hidden beneath hoods, but Emma could feel their eyes on her, cold, calculating. You've been hiding long enough, one of the figures said, their voice low and metallic, as though it came through a distortion. It's time to end this. Elon stepped forward, his posture unwavering. You won't win. You'll never control the resonance. The figure who spoke chuckled darkly, stepping into the room. Control? No. But we can destroy it. Before Emma could react, the air around her seemed to ripple. Her vision blurred, and she felt an immense pressure build within her chest, as though the very air had turned hostile. Liam's hand tightened around hers, and their connection flared. Liam, Emma whispered, looking into his eyes. Together. We can do this. Liam nodded, his face grim. I'm ready. As the figures advanced, Emma and Liam closed their eyes, allowing the resonance to flood through them. They weren't just fighting these shadowy intruders, they were fighting for their very survival. The power surged between them, building and building until it felt like the entire room was alive with energy. The figures recoiled, their faces twisting in shock as the resonance pushed back against them. The air hummed with the sheer force of it, and Emma felt a sense of clarity she had never known before. This wasn't just about their connection, it was about all of humanity, the future, and everything at stake. Now, Liam, Emma whispered, as the figures took another step forward. In that moment, they didn't just act, they became the resonance. The aftermath of the attack left the room in eerie silence. The 3 shadowy figures had retreated, vanishing as quickly as they had come. But the tension didn't dissipate. In fact, the weight of it seemed to press down harder, suffocating them in a lingering fog of uncertainty. Emma stood frozen, her heart still racing, her hands trembling at her sides. She could feel the lingering resonance between her and Liam, stronger than ever, but something had shifted. There was a discomfort in the energy now, like an unspoken tension between them that neither of them could quite explain. Liam, Emma whispered, turning to face her son. His eyes were wide, his chest rising and falling rapidly, but there was something else in his expression. A flicker of doubt. Liam's brow furrowed as he looked at her. Mom, that wasn't just a fight. Something's wrong. I can feel it. The resonance, it's too much. Emma's heart clenched at the sound of his voice. He was scared, of course he was, but there was more to it than that. The energy between them was volatile, pulsing with an intensity she couldn't control. She had thought she understood the resonance, but this? This was something else entirely. Elon, she said, her voice tight with worry. What did we just do? Why do I feel off? Like something inside me is shifting. Elon stood by the console, his face unreadable. He had been silent through the entire encounter, his focus unwavering as he monitored their movements. But now, he turned toward them, his expression softer than before. "You both did exactly what needed to be done," Elon said, his tone calm. "You used the resonance to defend yourselves, to push back the Watchers." But, his voice trailed off, and Emma felt the weight of his next words before they even left his mouth. "But," she pressed, the air growing colder around them. "There's a cost to the resonance," Elon said, his eyes narrowing as he watched Emma closely. "The more you tap into it, the more you pull from it, the more it begins to change you. Not just in terms of power, but in terms of who you are. It feeds off of your deepest emotions, your fears, your desires. And it can consume you if you're not careful." Emma's breath caught in her throat. "Consume me? What do you mean?" Elon's eyes darkened, his gaze flicking between her and Liam. "The resonance is a force that does not differentiate between light and dark. It amplifies everything. And the more you use it, the more it becomes a part of you. Soon, you may not be able to tell where you end and the resonance begins. That's when the real danger starts." Liam's voice cracked, the weight of Elon's words settling over him like a heavy cloak. "What happens if we can't control it?" "You lose yourself," Elon replied, his voice a soft warning. "You become a slave to the resonance. And once you've crossed that line, there's no coming back." Emma's pulse quickened. She turned to Liam, and in his eyes, she saw the same fear reflected in her own. She had thought she could protect him, but now, the truth was clearer than ever, she wasn't sure she could protect either of them from what they were becoming. She looked down at her hands, feeling the faint hum of power coursing through her fingertips. It was intoxicating, this feeling of limitless possibility. But the warning echoed in her mind. Could she trust herself to control it? Could she trust Liam? "I don't want to lose you," Emma whispered to him, her voice trembling. "I don't want us to lose ourselves." Liam reached out, his hand brushing against hers. "We won't," he said, his voice more certain than she felt. "We'll figure this out. We have to." But Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was already slipping beyond their control. The resonance was powerful, yes, but it was also unpredictable, and with it, so were they. There was no going back now. The next few days passed in a blur of intense training. Emma and Liam pushed themselves harder, learning how to control their growing abilities, but the more they practiced, the more the internal struggle intensified. The resonance never felt quite the same again. Every time they tapped into it, they risked going too far, letting it consume them. At night, Emma lay awake, staring up at the ceiling. She could hear the faint pulse of the resonance vibrating beneath her skin, like a constant hum that never stopped. She knew she wasn't the only one struggling. Liam was distant, more so than he had ever been. They spoke less, their silent connection feeling strained and heavy. One evening, after a particularly grueling session, Emma found herself alone in the facility's training room. The walls seemed to close in around her, the air thick with energy. She could feel it, the pull, as though the resonance was calling to her, drawing her in deeper. She stepped forward, her mind racing. There was something she needed to understand, something she had to confront before it swallowed her whole. The lights flickered above her, casting long shadows on the floor. Emma closed her eyes, reaching deep inside herself. She could feel the resonance like a current rushing through her veins, and this time, it was different. There was a dark edge to it, a hunger that made her skin crawl. "Liam," she whispered, her voice soft but urgent. But there was no answer. She was alone. And in that moment, she realized just how dangerous it had become. The resonance wasn't just a gift. It was a temptation. One she couldn't resist. Suddenly, a voice broke through the silence. A voice she didn't expect to hear. "Emma." She spun around, her heart racing, but no one was there. "Emma, listen to me." The voice was inside her head, but it wasn't Liam. It was something else. Something dark, familiar, and yet foreign all at once. She stepped back, her pulse quickening. "What do you want?" she whispered, her voice trembling. The voice didn't respond immediately, but she felt it, felt the weight of it bearing down on her. The resonance was alive in a way that frightened her. She could feel it thinking, breathing, as if it was aware of her. And it was waiting. The days after Emma's unsettling encounter in the training room were marked by a tension that neither she nor Liam could escape. Every moment felt charged, as though the very air around them was alive with the force of the resonance. What had once felt like a powerful tool, a beacon of hope, now seemed more like a dangerous, unstable force that could easily slip through their fingers and consume them whole. Emma watched Liam from across the room one morning as he sat alone at the table, staring blankly at a half-drunk cup of coffee. His brow was furrowed, his fingers tapping anxiously on the side of the mug. It had been days since they had really talked, since the resonance had started pulling at them in ways they couldn't understand. Liam didn't look up as Emma approached. She could see the strain in his posture, the way his shoulders seemed tense, as though he were carrying a weight that no one could see. Her heart tightened. This wasn't just about the danger they faced from the Watchers anymore. It was about something far more insidious, their own unraveling. "Liam," she said softly, sitting down beside him. Her hand hovered near his, but he didn't take it. "Mom," he replied, his voice distant. "I don't know what's happening to me." The words hit her like a cold wave. He was still struggling to understand the full scope of the resonance, just as she was. But this was different. The emotional distance between them was growing, and Emma knew deep down that it wasn't just fear of the unknown, it was something darker, something the resonance was stirring in them. "Liam, I feel it too," Emma said, her voice trembling. "I feel like we're both slipping away from each other. Like something is changing inside us, and I don't know how to stop it." Liam finally looked at her, his eyes filled with a confusion that mirrored her own. "It's like I can feel everything at once. The resonance it's like it's inside me. Like it's taking over." Emma's chest tightened at his words. She had felt the same, felt how the resonance had blurred the lines between what was them and what was the power they were trying to control. It was becoming harder to separate the two. It was as though the more they tapped into it, the more they lost themselves. The silence between them was heavy, suffocating. "You need to be careful," Elon's voice broke through, his presence looming in the doorway. Emma hadn't even noticed him approach, but she felt the familiar, reassuring steadiness in his gaze. "Careful about what?" Liam asked, his voice sharp with frustration. "The resonance," Elon said, walking into the room and sitting across from them. "It's not just a power. It's an experience. It changes you, even when you don't want it to. It feeds off of your emotions, amplifying your fears, your desires, everything inside you that you'd rather keep hidden." Emma's pulse quickened. "I've been feeling it. The more we use it, the more it feels like we're losing control. We're not the same anymore." Elon looked at them both, his expression a mixture of concern and regret. "It's because you're not just learning how to control it. You're learning how to live with it. And it's starting to become a part of you in ways you don't fully understand." Liam looked at him, his eyes wide with confusion. "But why? Why is this happening? I thought the resonance was supposed to help us. To protect us." "It is," Elon replied. "But the resonance doesn't just protect. It connects you to everything, every living thing, every thought, every emotion. It amplifies what's already there inside you. And if you're not careful, it can twist those feelings into something dangerous." The room seemed to grow darker as the weight of Elon's words settled over them. Emma felt the resonance pulsing beneath her skin, stronger now, like a current that was no longer just a force to harness, but a part of her, alive and waiting to be unleashed. "We're already too far in," she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. "We've let it inside us. And now I don't know how to get it out. Elon's gaze softened. You can't get rid of it. The resonance doesn't just go away. It's with you now, in every sense. The key is learning how to live with it without letting it consume you. Liam's face hardened. But how? How do we stop it from controlling us? You start by accepting it, Elon said. You accept that it's a part of you. And you learn to balance it. It's not about denying the power, it's about learning to coexist with it. But you must never lose sight of who you are, of the person you were before this started. Emma shook her head, her heart heavy. I don't know if I can. The more I try to control it, the more it takes. I can feel it changing me. Elon's expression grew more serious. The longer you resist, the stronger it gets. But if you give in completely, you'll lose everything. Including each other. The weight of his words lingered in the room like an unspoken threat. Emma felt the resonance surge inside her again, a pulse that seemed to echo with a promise. You are mine now. She closed her eyes, trying to block out the sensation, trying to regain some semblance of control. But it was slipping from her grasp. She could feel it, the fear, the power, the desperation to hold on to what was left of her humanity. Liam stood up abruptly, his chair scraping harshly against the floor. I can't do this anymore, he said, his voice breaking. I don't know what's happening to me, to us. I can't. I can't fight this feeling. Emma's heart sank as she watched him walk away, his footsteps echoing through the empty room. She wanted to call after him, to make him understand, but the words wouldn't come. She was terrified, terrified of losing him, terrified of losing herself. She was trapped in the very thing that was supposed to set them free. The next few days passed in a blur of confusion and unease. Emma and Liam barely spoke. Every attempt to reconnect only seemed to push them further apart. The resonance was louder now, a constant hum in the background of their thoughts. And yet, with every passing moment, Emma could feel herself slipping further into the darkness. It wasn't just the resonance that was changing her, it was everything she had ever believed. She was starting to doubt herself. She was starting to doubt them. It had been 3 days since Liam walked out of the training room, and Emma had been counting every minute since. The silence between them had grown deafening. Every attempt to reach out felt like she was pushing against a wall, and no matter how hard she tried, the distance between them seemed to stretch further with each passing moment. The resonance was louder now, its presence a constant hum in the back of her mind. Emma could feel it every time she breathed, every time she moved. It had become a part of her, woven into her thoughts, her body, her very essence. But with that closeness came something darker. A pull. A hunger. A whisper that told her to give in. She sat alone in the small room they'd been using for training, staring at the floor, her mind racing with 1,000 conflicting thoughts. How had things gotten this bad? How had they allowed the resonance to take over so completely? Her fingers trembled as she gripped the edge of the chair, trying to steady herself. The power, once a gift, now felt more like a curse. She could sense Liam's presence in the building, but he hadn't spoken to her in days. The air between them felt charged, but every time she tried to reach out, it felt as though they were speaking different languages, separated by an invisible barrier. Elon, she said quietly, her voice breaking the stillness. The scientist had been unusually distant as well, his focus entirely on monitoring their progress with the resonance. He was watching them, but he wasn't helping them. Not in the way she needed. Not in the way that would fix whatever was wrong between her and Liam. He appeared in the doorway, his expression unreadable. Yes. I need to talk to you, Emma said, standing up abruptly. I don't know what's happening. The resonance, it's changing us, Elon. I don't know how much longer we can fight it. Elon stepped inside, his gaze flicking between her and the silence of the room. He seemed to weigh her words before responding. I know. I've been monitoring both of you, and I can see the strain. It's like the resonance is beginning to merge with your identities. You're no longer just wielding the power. The power is wielding you. Emma's chest tightened at his words. She had feared that the resonance was more than they could control, but hearing it from Elon, someone who had always been calm, logical, and in control, made the truth undeniable. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice pleading. "How do we stop it before we lose everything? Before we lose each other?" Elon's eyes softened, but his face remained stoic. "You can't stop it, Emma. Not completely. The resonance is a part of you now. It has bonded with you in ways that are irreversible. The only thing you can do is learn how to live with it. Accept it for what it is." Emma shook her head, the words feeling hollow. "I can't accept this. I can't accept losing Liam. I can't accept losing myself." "I'm afraid that's the price you pay," Elon said softly. "Power always comes with a cost. And the resonance, it's not just a power. It's a force of nature. A living, breathing entity. It will shape you as much as you shape it. There's no way around it." Emma felt a chill settle deep in her bones. The weight of Elon's words was more than she could bear. "So, we just give in? Let it consume us?" "No," Elon replied firmly, stepping closer. "You can't let it consume you. That's the danger. If you let it control you completely, you'll lose who you are. But you also can't deny it. Denying the resonance will make it stronger, and you'll lose yourself anyway." Emma swallowed hard, feeling the sharp edge of panic rising in her chest. "How can we live with it, then? How do we stop it from tearing us apart?" Elon didn't respond immediately, his eyes scanning her face as if searching for something. Finally, he spoke, his voice grave. "You need to find balance. You need to understand that the resonance doesn't define you. You define it. But you also need to face the truth, it will never be easy. You'll have to make a choice, Emma. A choice between the power you crave and the person you want to be." Emma's stomach twisted as his words sank in. She had always believed that the resonance could be a tool for good, a way to protect herself and Liam. But now, she wasn't so sure. It was becoming a part of them in ways she couldn't predict, and she didn't know if they were strong enough to control it. "What happens if we fail?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "If you fail," Elon said slowly, "you'll lose everything. The resonance will consume you both, and there won't be anything left. Not your memories, not your identity. You'll become part of the resonance itself, a vessel for its power." The room felt colder now, the air thick with the weight of Elon's words. Emma closed her eyes, trying to steady herself, but it was useless. She could feel the resonance pulsing beneath her skin, pulling at her, urging her to embrace it. "Where's Liam?" she asked, her voice tight with anxiety. "Why hasn't he come to me? We need to talk about this." Elon's eyes darkened, a shadow passing over his face. "Liam is struggling. Just like you are. But he's afraid, Emma. Afraid of losing himself. He feels the resonance pulling at him, just as you do. And right now, he doesn't know how to face it." A knot twisted in Emma's chest. She could sense it, the distance between them was growing wider, and with it, the resonance was slipping further out of her control. She needed Liam. They needed each other, more than ever. But how could they help each other when they were both so lost? Later that night, Emma stood in the doorway of the room she shared with Liam. She could hear him moving inside, the soft shuffle of his feet as he paced. The silence between them was thick, suffocating. She hesitated, her hand resting on the doorframe, before finally stepping inside. "Liam." Her voice was soft, tentative. Liam stopped and turned to face her, his eyes dark and tired. "Mom," he said quietly. "I don't know what's happening to me. The resonance, every time I use it, it feels like I'm losing more of myself." "I feel it too," Emma admitted, her voice thick with emotion. But we can't keep running from it, Liam. We have to face it. Together. Liam's gaze shifted, a flicker of something deep in his eyes. I'm scared, he confessed, his voice barely audible. I don't know if I can do this. If I can control it. Emma's heart ached for him, but she stepped forward, reaching for his hand. We're in this together. We have to fight. We can't let it take us. Liam looked down at their joined hands, his fingers trembling slightly. He took a deep breath and nodded, though Emma could see the fear still clouding his expression. This isn't just about the resonance anymore, he said, his voice barely a whisper. It's about who we are. Who we're becoming. And for the first time in days, Emma didn't have an answer. The air between Emma and Liam was thick with the unspoken. They stood in the same room, only a few feet apart, but the distance between them seemed immeasurable. The resonance pulsed around them, a constant, oppressive force that neither of them could ignore. It wasn't just the power that was changing, it was them. The pull of the resonance was unlike anything they had imagined. Every day it felt more like it was a part of them, rewriting the very fabric of who they were. I don't know what to do anymore, Liam said, his voice low and strained. His hands were shoved into his pockets, shoulders hunched in a way that made him seem smaller than he really was. There was a vulnerability in his eyes that Emma hadn't seen before, one that mirrored her own. They had been avoiding this conversation for days, each one silently hoping the other would speak first, that the weight of the decision would fall on someone else. But now, the silence had stretched too long, and the inevitable had arrived. They couldn't hide from the truth any longer. Liam, Emma began softly, her voice trembling, we need to make a choice. The resonance, it's not just going to stop. It's inside us, and we can't deny it. But we also can't let it control us. We have to figure out what we're willing to sacrifice to keep it from consuming us completely. Liam shook his head, running a hand through his hair. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose myself. But every time I try to fight it, it feels like I'm getting pulled further away. And when I try to embrace it, I feel like I'm losing everything that made me me. Emma took a step forward, her heart aching for her son, for the boy who was still searching for answers in a world that no longer made sense. I know, honey. I feel it too. Every time I close my eyes, I can feel it tugging at me. It's like something inside me is changing. But we can't let it define us. We have to decide who we are, not just who the resonance wants us to be. Liam's eyes met hers, and for a brief moment, Emma saw the boy she had raised, the one who had always been strong, full of potential, even in the darkest moments. But that boy was slipping away, and she didn't know if she could stop it. Do you think we can still control it? Liam asked, his voice barely a whisper. Do you think we can still be the people we were before all of this? The question hung in the air like a heavy fog, and Emma didn't have an answer. The truth was, she didn't know. The resonance had changed everything, and it was hard to imagine ever returning to the life they had before. It was like trying to put the ocean back into a bottle. But that didn't mean they couldn't try. That didn't mean they couldn't fight. I don't know, Emma admitted, her voice raw. But we have to try. Together. We have to make a choice, Liam. We can't let the resonance take us down a path we can't come back from. We have to find balance. We have to choose who we want to be. Not just what we're capable of. Liam looked down, his fingers gripping the edge of the counter as he leaned against it. He seemed lost, caught between the pull of the resonance and his desire to remain grounded in who he had been. Emma understood. She had been feeling the same way. Every time she thought she had control, it slipped through her fingers like sand. The problem is, Liam continued, his voice steady but laced with fear, I don't know if I'm strong enough to resist it. To hold on to who I was. You are, Emma said, her voice unwavering. She stepped closer, placing a hand on his arm. You are stronger than you know. We both are. But we have to make the choice. Do we give in, let the resonance take us, or do we fight to hold on to what's left of us? Liam stared at her, his eyes searching, as if looking for some sort of sign, something to guide him. Emma could feel the weight of the decision bearing down on them, a pressure that made her chest feel tight. The resonance was relentless, and with every passing second, it felt like it was pulling them farther apart. "I don't want to lose you, Mom," Liam whispered, his voice barely audible. "But I'm scared. I don't know if I can control it anymore. It's like it's taking over." Emma's heart shattered at his words. She could see the fear in his eyes, the fear of losing control, of losing himself in the process. It mirrored her own. But they couldn't give up. Not now. Not when they still had a chance. "I'm scared too, Liam," Emma admitted, her voice trembling. "But we can't give up. Not when we're so close. We have to trust that we can still control it. We can still make the right choice." The silence between them was thick with the weight of their unspoken fears. They stood there for a long moment, the resonance pulsing in the background like a living thing, waiting for them to make a decision. Finally, Liam spoke again, his voice stronger this time. "Okay. We'll fight. We'll make the choice to control it. To not let it control us." Emma nodded, relief flooding through her. Together, then. They stood there for a moment longer, the connection between them solidifying. There was no guarantee they would succeed. No promise that they would emerge from this unscathed. But one thing was certain, they weren't alone. They had each other. And as long as they did, they would keep fighting. The next morning, Emma and Liam stood side by side in the training room, ready to face the resonance once more. They didn't know what would happen or how it would all end. But they were no longer afraid to make the choice. To fight. To choose who they wanted to be, no matter what the resonance had in store for them. It wasn't going to be easy. They both knew that. But they had made their choice. And that was the first step. The resonance thrummed in the air, wrapping around Emma and Liam like a living thing. It was more than just a power now, it was a presence, constantly pressing against their minds and hearts, whispering things they didn't want to hear. The decision they had made in the quiet of the night, to fight, to choose their own path, now felt more daunting than ever. Emma stood beside Liam in the training room, her hands trembling slightly as she tried to steady her breath. The energy was different today. It was more insistent, like a floodwater rising steadily around them. She could feel it in her veins, pushing against her, testing her resolve. "You ready?" Liam's voice was barely audible, but the concern in his eyes was clear. Emma glanced at him. His face was pale, the dark circles under his eyes a reminder of how much both of them had been through. They were both exhausted, mentally, physically, emotionally. But the resonance had no compassion. It wasn't going to stop just because they were tired. "I don't know," Emma admitted, her voice strained. "But we have to try. We can't keep hiding from it, Liam. It won't get easier unless we face it head-on." Liam nodded, but she could see the fear still lingering in his eyes. Fear that, like her, he wasn't sure if they were strong enough to control the resonance. Fear that maybe they were already too far gone. "I don't want to lose you, Mom," Liam said quietly, his voice breaking. Emma reached out to him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You won't lose me. We're in this together. No matter what happens, we're in this together." Liam gave her a tight smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. The weight of their decision hung heavily between them. They had chosen to fight, but that didn't mean they knew how. "Elon thinks we're too far gone," Emma said, her voice full of frustration. "He thinks we've already lost ourselves to the resonance. But I refuse to believe that." Liam's gaze flickered toward the corner of the room where Elon had been observing them. The scientist stood there, silent as ever, his expression unreadable. He had been distant lately, offering little support or encouragement. His focus had shifted entirely to their progression with the resonance, as if they were nothing more than subjects in an experiment. Elon's wrong, Liam said, his voice sharp. He doesn't get it. He never understood what it meant to have something like this in you. He doesn't know what it's like to feel like you're losing yourself. Emma squeezed his shoulder. But we do. And we're not going to lose ourselves. We're going to fight it, Liam. One moment at a time. The air around them crackled, as if the resonance itself was testing their resolve. Emma could feel the familiar pull at the edges of her thoughts, the way it tried to sink its claws into her, to take over her mind and body. She had felt it before, that terrifying surge of power that threatened to drown her. Liam stepped forward, his jaw set with determination. We have to make a stand. Now. I'm not going to let it win. We can't keep going back and forth like this. Emma stood beside him, gathering every ounce of strength she had left. Then let's make it count. Without another word, they moved to the center of the room. The resonance reacted immediately, swirling around them like a storm. Emma could feel it wrapping around her, the energy coursing through her body, urging her to give in, to embrace it fully. But this time, she held her ground. Not today, she thought, clenching her fists at her sides. Not today. Liam's voice broke through her focus. We need to stay focused. We can't let it break us. Emma nodded, her breathing shallow. She could feel the resonance growing stronger with every passing second, pulling at her thoughts, testing her willpower. It wanted control. It wanted to consume her. But she wasn't alone. Liam was with her, his presence grounding her, his energy matching hers as they fought back together. It was as if the resonance sensed their defiance. A sudden pulse shot through the room, pushing against them with a force that knocked them both back. Emma stumbled, struggling to keep her balance. Liam's hand shot out to steady her, but the intensity of the resonance was overwhelming. Hold on. Liam shouted, his voice tight with strain. Don't let it break us. Emma gritted her teeth, digging her nails into her palms. The sensation was suffocating, but she refused to give in. I am Emma. I am still me. This is my body. My mind. My choice. The power surged again, like a floodgate opening, and Emma could feel herself slipping. It was like being caught in a wave, pulled under the surface, gasping for air. She felt the resonance reaching into her very soul, pulling at the essence of who she was, like it was trying to overwrite her memories, her desires, everything that made her who she was. But then, in the midst of the chaos, she heard Liam's voice, strong, unwavering. Mom! Don't give up. His words pierced through the haze, and suddenly, she was back. She wasn't drowning. She wasn't losing herself. She was standing in the storm, facing it, refusing to back down. With a surge of strength, Emma reached out, connecting with the resonance in a way she never had before. It was like reaching into the heart of the storm and finding a small flicker of warmth, a heartbeat. This is mine, she thought fiercely. I control this. The resonance hesitated, as if sensing her resistance, then recoiled. For a moment, everything was still. But it wasn't over. The battle had just begun. Liam's eyes met hers, his own filled with a mix of awe and fear. Mom, you did it. Emma wiped the sweat from her brow, taking a deep breath. Not yet. We have to keep going. We can't let up. We have to fight, Liam. Every second. Every moment. They stood together in the center of the room, the resonance swirling around them like a living entity, waiting for them to falter. But Emma knew one thing for certain now. They weren't going to let it take them. They were in this together, and they would fight until the very end. They had made their choice. Now, they had to live with it. The air felt heavier the next morning, thick with anticipation, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Emma and Liam stood side by side once more, the resonance lingering in the room, a constant hum that buzzed in their ears. It was like the calm before the storm, still and foreboding, waiting for the next move. The battle in the training room had left them shaken but determined. They'd come face to face with the resonance's power, and while they hadn't fully overcome it, they had proven that they could fight back. But now, Emma had a growing sense that something was shifting, that there were unseen forces at play, forces they couldn't yet comprehend. Liam was staring at the wall, his arms crossed, his mind clearly elsewhere. He had been quieter than usual since their last confrontation with the resonance. Emma noticed the way he clenched his jaw, as if trying to hold something back. "Are you okay?" Emma asked, breaking the silence. Liam didn't immediately respond, his gaze fixed on the distant corner of the room where the resonance had first manifested. When he did speak, his voice was softer, almost hesitant. "I don't know, Mom. It's like there's something more to it. Every time we fight the resonance, it feels like it's changing, adapting. Like it's learning from us." Emma frowned. She had been thinking the same thing, but hearing it out loud made the realization more unsettling. "You think it's evolving?" she asked, her voice tight with unease. "Yeah," Liam said, his tone grim. "It's like it knows us, knows our weaknesses. The way it tests us, it's not just power anymore. It's like it's strategizing." Emma couldn't ignore the chill that crawled up her spine. They had always known the resonance was dangerous, but the idea that it could learn, could adapt and grow, made the threat even more terrifying. If it could evolve in response to their actions, they might be in a race against time to stay one step ahead. "We can't keep doing this the way we have been," Emma said, her voice steady, though a thread of panic crept in. "We need to understand more about it. We need to figure out what it wants." Liam turned to face her, his expression a mix of determination and fear. "What if it wants us to give in? What if it's testing us to see how far we'll go before we break?" The thought struck Emma like a hammer blow. What if the resonance was more than just a force of nature? What if it was some kind of intelligent entity, manipulating them, pushing them towards some unknowable end? "We can't let it control us, Liam," Emma said firmly, the weight of her words grounding her. "We need to take control. We have to understand it, or it will destroy us." For a moment, there was silence between them, the hum of the resonance filling the void. Emma knew the truth of what they were up against. It wasn't just the power they had to fight. It was the unknown that lurked behind it, the dark mystery of what the resonance really was and what it wanted from them. Suddenly, a noise broke through their thoughts. It was soft, almost imperceptible, but unmistakable. A low hum, almost like a whisper, but louder than the usual resonance. Liam tensed, his eyes narrowing. "Do you hear that?" Emma strained to listen, and as the sound grew, her heart skipped a beat. It wasn't the usual resonance. This was something different, something deeper, more deliberate. The walls seemed to vibrate, the air around them thickening. "Where's it coming from?" Emma whispered, her voice tight with anxiety. Before Liam could answer, the hum stopped, and the room fell eerily quiet. But Emma could feel the change. It was like the very atmosphere had shifted, as if something unseen had entered the room. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up. What just happened? Liam's face was pale, his eyes wide. "I don't know. But I think it's trying to communicate." The idea of the resonance communicating made Emma's stomach churn. The resonance wasn't just a force to be fought, it was becoming something else, something much more dangerous and intelligent. Suddenly, the door to the training room opened with a creak, and Elon Musk stepped in, his usual calm demeanor replaced with a look of deep concern. His eyes scanned the room before locking onto Emma and Liam. "I think you've just discovered something important," Elon said, his voice low and measured. "The resonance isn't just a power. It's something alive, and it's trying to make contact." Emma felt a shiver of dread run through her. "What do you mean, trying to make contact?" "It's testing you," Elon said, his voice urgent. "It's probing your minds, your emotions. It's trying to learn about you, just as you're trying to learn about it." Emma exchanged a glance with Liam, both of them struck by the same chilling thought. The resonance wasn't just an uncontrollable force. It was aware. What does it want? Liam asked, his voice sharp with suspicion. Elon hesitated for a moment, his face unreadable. That's what we don't know. But we're running out of time. It's getting smarter, and it's not just pushing back against you, it's trying to pull you in. You felt it, haven't you? The way it can't be ignored. Emma nodded slowly. Yeah. It's like it's getting stronger. Like it's trying to make us want to join it. Elon's expression darkened. Exactly. And if you give in, if you let it pull you in, you may never be able to break free. For a moment, the room was filled with the weight of his words. The resonance wasn't just a threat, it was a trap. A trap that was getting more sophisticated by the day, and Emma and Liam were the ones being pulled into it. We need to find out more, Emma said, her voice hard with determination. We can't let it control us. Not now. Not ever. Elon nodded, his eyes flicking between them. I'll help you. But we have to move quickly. The resonance is evolving, and we need to stay ahead of it. The longer you fight it, the more it learns about you. Emma and Liam exchanged a look. They had no choice now. They had to confront this new reality, this new threat that was growing stronger with every passing moment. And they had to do it before it was too late. The days that followed felt like a race against time, each minute more pressing than the last. The tension in the air seemed to have thickened, pressing in on them from all sides. Emma, Liam, and Elon worked tirelessly to uncover more about the resonance, pushing their limits in a way they hadn't before. Every hour, every new discovery, only seemed to raise more questions, and none of them were comforting. Elon had been poring over old research notes, trying to piece together any shred of information that might explain the growing intelligence of the resonance. Meanwhile, Emma and Liam spent their days in the training room, testing their limits, trying to control the energy that continued to surge and pulse within them. But every step forward felt like a struggle, as if the resonance itself was one step ahead of them. One afternoon, as the hum of the resonance filled the room, Elon called them into the lab. His face was grim, his usually composed demeanor tinged with something darker, something closer to fear. I found something, Elon said, his voice steady, but with an underlying urgency. Something that could change everything. Emma and Liam exchanged a look. They had seen Elon in countless situations, always the scientist, always calm and focused. But now, there was a shadow of doubt in his eyes, a flicker of unease that unsettled them both. What did you find? Emma asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Elon gestured for them to come closer, and they crowded around the console, where a complex web of data and algorithms flashed across the screen. The lines and numbers seemed like nothing more than gibberish at first, but as they studied it, Emma could feel the weight of something more significant. This, Elon said, pointing to a particular string of data, is an anomaly. It's not just resonance energy. It's something else. Something embedded within the resonance itself. A pattern. A signal. Liam leaned forward, his brow furrowing in confusion. A signal? You mean like it's sending a message? That's exactly what I mean, Elon replied, his voice tight. It's not just raw power, it's communication. The resonance is trying to reach out, to connect. But not in a way we've been able to understand until now. Emma's heart began to race. The idea that the resonance was trying to communicate was terrifying. It wasn't just a random force of nature, it was something much more deliberate, more intelligent. Who is it trying to communicate with? Liam asked, his voice full of suspicion. Elon looked at him, his eyes dark with the weight of the realization. It's trying to communicate with you. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Emma's chest tightened as the full implications of Elon's words sank in. The resonance wasn't just reacting to them, it was actively seeking them out. It was drawing them in, testing them, perhaps even waiting for them to make a choice. I don't understand, Emma said, her voice trembling. "What does it want from us?" "That's what we don't know," Elon said, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "But based on the data I've gathered, it seems like the resonance has a purpose. It's not random. It's trying to form a connection, and it's been doing it for a long time, long before you two were even aware of it." Liam's eyes widened. "You mean, this has been going on for years?" Elon nodded, his face pale. "Yes. It's been a gradual build-up. The resonance has been evolving, adapting, learning. And now, it's targeting you. The question is why?" Emma felt a cold shiver run down her spine. If the resonance had been evolving for years, that meant it was more than just a force, it was something with intentions. And those intentions were centered on her and Liam. "Why us?" Emma whispered. "Why did it choose us?" Elon didn't have an answer. Instead, he turned back to the data, his fingers flying over the keyboard as he accessed more files. The screen flickered for a moment, and then a new set of documents appeared, older files, written in a language Emma didn't recognize. "These," Elon said, pointing to the documents, "are from research conducted before the resonance was fully understood. It's based on an old theory, one that's been buried for years." Liam leaned closer, squinting at the text. "What is this? Some kind of code?" "It's a cipher," Elon explained. "A hidden language embedded within the resonance itself. And if I'm reading this correctly, it's a warning." Emma's heart skipped a beat. A warning? She could barely comprehend the weight of that. The resonance was trying to communicate something crucial, something they had yet to understand fully. "A warning about what?" she asked, her voice hoarse. Elon's expression darkened as he read the files, his lips pressing into a thin line. "It's warning us about a coming event, something that will shift the balance between the resonance and the world around it. Something catastrophic." Liam's face drained of color. "Catastrophic how?" Elon hesitated before answering, his gaze shifting from the screen to Emma and Liam. "I don't know yet. But the resonance, if left unchecked, could trigger an irreversible event. It could collapse the boundary between itself and reality. And if that happens..." He didn't need to finish the sentence. The implications were clear. If the resonance broke free of whatever boundaries were holding it back, the world as they knew it could unravel. Reality itself could fracture, leaving chaos in its wake. Emma felt the ground beneath her feet shift. They were no longer just dealing with an uncontrollable force. The resonance wasn't a mere problem, it was an existential threat. And they were at the heart of it. "We have to stop it," Emma said, her voice firm. "We have to figure out how to stop it before it's too late." Elon looked at her with a mix of awe and apprehension. "I don't think stopping it is enough. You need to understand it. The resonance is not just a power, it's part of something much bigger. And whatever it wants, whatever it's trying to do, you have to be ready for it." Liam's gaze was fixed on the screen, his mind racing with everything they had just learned. "What's the next step? What do we do now?" Elon's fingers hovered over the keyboard, his face pale with the weight of the knowledge they had uncovered. "Now, we prepare. We learn as much as we can. And we wait. The resonance is drawing closer, and when it reaches its peak, we'll need to make a decision. And that decision will change everything." The room fell silent, the hum of the resonance filling the void once more, louder now, as if it could sense the tension in the air. Emma felt the weight of the choice before them. Whatever they did next, whatever decision they made, would be the one that determined the future of not just their lives, but the world. The battle was no longer just about survival. It was about understanding something that, until now, had been beyond their comprehension. And time was running out. The quiet that settled over the lab was suffocating. Emma felt her breath catch in her throat, as if the weight of their discovery had compressed the very air around them. The resonance was no longer just a force of nature, it was a force with intent, with a purpose that was unfolding right before their eyes. And they were caught at the center of it, poised on the edge of something terrifying and unknown. Liam was the first to break the silence. His voice was sharp, filled with a raw edge of fear and determination. What happens if we don't stop it, Elon? What happens if we just let it run its course? Elon hesitated, his eyes flicking between the screen and the two of them. I don't know. The research I've found, the warnings in those files, it's clear that if the resonance reaches its peak, reality as we know it could collapse. We could be looking at a full-scale breach between dimensions, where the resonance merges with our world. It could rewrite everything we understand about time, space, and life itself. The words hung in the air like a death sentence, heavy and suffocating. Emma's mind raced, trying to process the enormity of it all. A breach between dimensions. The resonance wasn't just a power to be fought, it was a threat that could tear apart the fabric of everything they knew. But how do we stop it? Liam's voice cracked, the weight of their predicament finally settling on him. If it's really that dangerous, how do we stop something that seems so alive? Elon turned to face them, his gaze firm yet filled with a quiet resignation. That's the million-dollar question. All this time, we've been reacting to the resonance. We've been trying to fight it, control it, but the truth is, we don't know how to stop it completely. The only thing we can do is make a choice. Emma's heart skipped a beat. A choice? Yes, Elon said, his voice steady. The resonance is intelligent, but it's also influenced by those who are attuned to it. You two have the potential to either harness it, control it, or. Emma prompted, her throat tight with fear. Or, you'll be consumed by it, Elon finished, his words stark and final. The resonance feeds on emotions, on decisions. And it has been pushing you toward this point, toward this moment, for a reason. The choice you make now will determine everything. Emma's mind reeled. How was it possible that their fate, the fate of the world, hinged on their choice? They weren't just dealing with a force, they were dealing with something that responded to them, that needed them to decide. It was as if the resonance had been setting a trap all along, waiting for them to step into the right position, waiting for them to make the final move. How do we even begin to make this decision? Liam asked, his voice almost a whisper. What do we choose? What's the right choice? Elon shook his head. I can't tell you what the right choice is. But I can tell you this, if you choose to try to control the resonance, to use its power for good, it will come with a price. The resonance doesn't give anything freely, it demands balance. It takes, just as much as it gives. The risk is immense. Emma felt a chill crawl up her spine. The resonance wasn't a tool to be wielded, it was a force that came with its own dark bargains. What would they have to sacrifice to control it? And if we refuse to control it? Liam asked, his voice growing more urgent. If we fight back against it entirely, what happens then? Then you risk everything, Elon said quietly. You risk triggering the event that would collapse the boundary between dimensions. You could destroy the resonance, but in the process, you might destroy the world with it. Emma's stomach churned. There was no good option. There was no easy path forward. It was a choice between two unimaginable outcomes, and either one carried a weight so heavy it felt impossible to bear. Do we even have a choice? Emma whispered, her voice breaking. Elon met her gaze, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and understanding. You do. But whatever you choose, it will change everything. And once the choice is made, there will be no going back. For a long moment, there was silence, the hum of the resonance in the background, its presence now palpable in the room. Emma felt as though the walls were closing in on her. The fate of the world, and perhaps reality itself, was hanging by a thread, and it rested on the decision they would make in the next few moments. I don't know what to do, Liam said, his voice raw with the weight of it all. How can we know what the right thing is? Emma's mind raced, the pieces of their predicament swirling around her. They were up against something beyond their comprehension, something that could not be stopped with brute force or clever tactics. The resonance was a force of nature, yes, but it was also alive, and it responded to them, to their choices, to their will. The truth was, they couldn't control it. They couldn't destroy it. But perhaps, just perhaps, they could understand it. What if, Emma said slowly, what if we learn to live with it? What if we try to coexist with it, instead of fighting it or controlling it? Liam looked at her, his expression one of disbelief. You mean, let it be a part of us? Emma nodded. We've always been fighting against it, always reacting. But maybe the answer isn't to fight it. Maybe the answer is to learn how to live alongside it. To find balance. Elon was quiet for a long moment, his eyes narrowing as he processed her words. Then, finally, he spoke. It's possible, he said, his voice cautious. But it's incredibly risky. If you choose that path, you'll have to be willing to accept the resonance as part of your lives, forever. You won't be able to separate yourselves from it. You'll have to live in constant balance with it. Liam stared at the ground, his thoughts clearly racing. So, if we choose that path, we live with it. We become a part of it. Yes, Elon said softly. But you must understand, the resonance will always be a part of you. It will shape you, change you. And you will never fully control it. Emma felt her heart race as the magnitude of their choice settled in. There was no easy answer. No way to escape the consequences. But as she looked at Liam, she saw the same determination in his eyes that she felt in her own heart. This is our choice, Emma said, her voice steady despite the fear rising within her. And we have to make it. No matter what happens next. Liam nodded, his face set in resolve. We make the choice together. Emma took a deep breath, knowing that whatever they decided, their lives, and the world, would never be the same again. The silence was deafening as Emma and Liam stood together, facing the enormity of the choice before them. Time seemed to stretch out, every passing second feeling like an eternity. The resonance hummed softly in the background, a constant reminder that it was waiting for them to decide, to choose its fate, and ultimately, the fate of the world. Emma's mind raced, the weight of the decision pressing down on her like an anchor. She could feel Liam standing beside her, his presence a quiet anchor in the storm of uncertainty. They had come so far, endured so much together, and now, with everything on the line, they had to make the one choice that would shape everything. Are we ready? Emma asked, her voice barely more than a whisper. She didn't even recognize the tone, half fear, half resolve, but it was all she could muster in this moment. Liam looked at her, his expression unreadable for a moment before it softened. I don't know if we're ever truly ready for something like this, he said quietly. But I know that we can't go back. Whatever happens next, we face it together. A sense of calm washed over Emma at his words. They had been through too much to turn back now. They had seen the power of the resonance, felt its pull, and discovered that it was more than just an unpredictable force. It was alive, intelligent, and now, it was their responsibility to either coexist with it or face the consequences of rejecting it altogether. Then we make the choice, Emma said, a new sense of clarity settling in her chest. We live with it. We learn from it. And we control our own future. Liam nodded slowly, his eyes firm with determination. We find balance. With that final agreement, the room seemed to shift around them. The hum of the resonance grew louder, vibrating through the walls, as if acknowledging their decision. Emma could feel it in her chest now, not just as a force outside of her, but as something within her, something that connected them all. It wasn't a malevolent power waiting to destroy them. It wasn't a random anomaly. It was a part of them, as much as they were a part of it. As they took their first step toward the resonance, they both felt an overwhelming sense of connection. The world outside the lab, the chaos, the uncertainty, it all seemed distant now. Everything they had feared, all the worst-case scenarios, seemed to fall away as the resonance enveloped them, wrapping them in its energy like a warm blanket. It didn't feel like a takeover. It felt like a partnership, an understanding. Emma closed her eyes for a moment, letting the energy course through her. She felt it, like a pulse, a rhythm that aligned with her own heartbeat. It was as if the resonance was reaching out to her, showing her that it had always been there, waiting for the right moment, the right people to come along and accept it. She opened her eyes and looked at Liam, who stood beside her, his expression one of quiet awe. "It's like it's alive, isn't it?" Emma said softly, her words almost a question. Liam met her gaze, his voice barely above a whisper. "It is alive. It's a part of everything, of us, of the world. And now, we're part of it too." The air in the room crackled with energy as the resonance seemed to settle into a new harmony. The overwhelming pressure that had weighed on them all these weeks, the fear, the uncertainty, the tension, began to ease. The resonance wasn't a force to fight. It wasn't a battle to be won or lost. It was a living, breathing entity, and it had been waiting for them to accept it. To join with it. The decision they had made wasn't about control. It wasn't about defeating an enemy. It was about coexistence. About finding balance. About accepting something greater than themselves and learning to live alongside it. The resonance didn't belong to them, and they didn't belong to it. But they could share the same space. They could learn from each other. For a moment, everything felt still. The hum of the resonance faded into the background, and Emma could hear her own breath, steady and calm. Liam's presence beside her was comforting, grounding her. They were not alone in this. They never had been. Elon's voice broke through the silence, his tone filled with a quiet reverence. "You did it," he said, stepping forward. "You chose the only path that would allow us all to move forward. You chose to understand it." Emma turned to him, her heart still racing. "It wasn't easy." "No," Elon agreed, his face softening. "But nothing worth doing ever is." The room was filled with a new kind of energy now, an energy of possibility. They had chosen to live with the resonance, not as a force to control, but as something to learn from. Something to coexist with. And in doing so, they had forged a path for the future, one that was uncertain but full of hope. But the journey wasn't over. This was just the beginning. The resonance was still evolving, still learning, still growing. And so were they. Emma felt the weight of their decision settle in, but it wasn't a burden. It was a promise to continue learning, to continue growing, to continue seeking balance in a world that was constantly shifting beneath their feet. It wouldn't be easy, and there would be challenges ahead. But they were no longer fighting an invisible force. They were embracing it. And that made all the difference. The resonance was part of the world now. And Emma, Liam, and Elon were part of that world, too. Together, they would navigate the uncertain future, hand in hand with a force that was both powerful and misunderstood. "Where do we go from here?" Liam asked, his voice calm but filled with anticipation. Emma smiled, feeling a sense of peace that had eluded her for so long. "We go forward," she said, her voice filled with quiet determination. "Together." And with that, the resonance began to settle into its new rhythm, a steady pulse in the heart of the world. The new dawn had arrived. And with it, a new beginning. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?